Turned down for what?
Oh, I messed that up. I messed up our live countdown.
Messed it up.
I was uploading something and it interrupted the live countdown. Wow.
It interrupted it.
That's awesome.
We're live though.
We're live. Everybody gets an extra 11 seconds of Tech Charged, episode 8, the special edition, director's cut. Welcoming. Well, now I know I can't do that in the background when that's happening. So
you know it is a live stream, so whatever you get, you get.
Yeah, exactly right, man. Well, welcome back, everybody, to Tech Charged, episode 8, a Turn Down for What live podcast. And yes, sir, Josh, LFG.
Let's go.
And welcome back, Jace.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be back.
Great to have you back.
Yeah, wow. Mr. Road Tripper.
Yeah, it was good times. Yeah, it was colder than you'd expect kind of for this time of year, but it was good. It was a good one. We made it 2 stops on the way northern Michigan. So
okay,
here on the mitten, if you will.
Okay.
Well, we had a great conversation.
Almost UP.
Yeah, about an hour and a half south, but not far. Yeah.
We had a great conversation about route planning, and
yes.
So this week we want to kind of follow up and see how it went for you and talk through it. And I've got my own journey that I've been working on that I finally think I have in place. And Martin's a grizzled veteran, as are you. But Martin goes all over the place, towing and routing and all kinds of crazy stuff. Yes. And so he kind of turned the both of us, I think, towards a better route planner to try out. And I'm super interested to hear how that went for you. And then I wanted to shout ourselves out. I did this on our podcast earlier this week with Josh and Jesse, but I wanted to do it with you guys as well. So had a couple shout outs from people, which is always, super cool to hear just from the community. Martin got a shout out from Nikki on Transportation Evolved, as she was talking about her last year with her second Lightning, and just talking about the wiring harness that he did for the Putco lamp. Yeah. So that was super cool to see. And then Tom Malogny dropped a comment on one of my videos, which is again super cool, just to know that he knows that I exist at all. I know we share common platforms and stuff, but it's still, when someone of that stature is even aware of your content, it's super cool. And then Fred on the podcast, we've had Tim Bartz on before from Long MacArthur Ford. He's dropped comments into our live stream before, and so I was watching. He had an episode talking about the Lightning, and I was on there, and just I hadn't chatted or anything. He didn't know I was on, and then I got this clip that I thought I would share with the audience.
Turned down for what? So if you're into, especially tonight, we're going to talk about EV and Lightnings and such, and their channel, they have a podcast, and they talk 100% EV. So if you're into that, you can check their channel out as well. And I have these all linked in the description if you want to check those out later.
So that's super cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So great job with you guys. I know that it's been fun having this live stream episode, but to know people like Tim, tune in, and I've followed him for a long time, and just kind of a super cool thing to see the community that we follow come back and just acknowledge us. Is pretty darn awesome.
Quick fact before we get started: did you know that ICE 2025 F-150 will have an optionable illuminated badge?
Really? Well, I wonder if it's from Putco or if it's their own.
Well, since they're in court, they're in. You can buy the Ford one,
which is
from
theirs.
Ford.
Correct. Yeah. Yep, exactly. So I'm assuming probably, but ICE only for now. It's on the 2025 build-in price. Actually, I was messing around with it the other night when I couldn't sleep, and I was going through all sorts of options. And I went through the 2025 Lightning too, which is in Canada right now. The build-in price is up, not for the United States yet, but in Canada. Yeah. So interesting. Yeah.
So I guess in about a year or so, when those actually start seeing them on the roads, when I'll be ripping mine off.
Yeah. Kind of why I never did it. I don't know. I
know. It was one of those things. I don't know if you guys remember this, but back in the early 2000s when the other Lightning was out, I had the lighted glow emblem, the Ford emblem on the front
Nice.
of a 2000 Lightning, and everybody was like,
Wow.
"Oh, that's so cool." And I remember being, 23 or something when I had that, and now I'm like, are you really still 23 years old? Are you that cheesy? You got to put but even Nikki said the trashy, and I'm like, you know what? It's appropriately trashy. Like Chris is showing in his picture, it just matches that truck. And
Hey,
being
the
electric,
Lincoln Nautilus has one, and
yeah,
it
you get the
looks
essence of it.
great. It looks
So
great.
yeah, I think it's good.
I look at it, man. It's a lot like me, right? The top of my truck is smooth and bald, and then you've got the little handlebar and mustache, and the emblem is the goatee, man. Without the
Oh
goatee,
my god.
it's got that 70s hunt handlebar vibe, and the goatee really brings it into the modern times. So I like the light up. I mean, trashy or not, I dig it, man. I want it to light up. So
Yeah,
it's I like having it there, but it's super cool to me. I like the lights, but maybe one day I'll look back and it'll be like something that's out of fashion. But everybody's adding the new Model Y, they're adding the light bars, and I like the light bars. What can I say?
I do,
Yeah.
except for these guys you'll be like an 07 Dodge, and he's added the cheap, even Amazon grip across the hood, and I'm like, it really cheapens up that look, and I hate that because the Lightning is I think the legit first one that they did it right. Some people don't like how wide it is, and there's a lot of guys that tint them. I'm not a fan of tinting them. I think it looks good on a black truck during the day. I don't like it at night.
I think Rivian may have the best one with their multicolor Night Rider mode, and you can see the charging going across it.
Yeah,
they've
cool.
done the best job with theirs.
Yeah,
I don't love the eyes, the headlights on the Rivian personally.
Really?
I don't love it. I like the bar, but not the eyes per se. The Gen 2 looks a little bit better, but I like the Scout personally. It's probably like one of my favorites that I've seen in a while. I really like the Scout look.
They didn't do it like the old one. It's not round. It has a little bit of that, but the Bronco has more of that than the Scout. Those two are. I showed my wife the Bronco we had on order, and she's like, "Well, why aren't the headlights round? They're just flat." I was like, "Well, I think they're going to be round when you see them on. I think that middle is just the DRL." So
yeah. I'll send you some pictures of what ours looked like on with the in the dark. The Bronco was really, really cool, and we added the Raptor lights to it. The heavy duty, 3 lights, whatever they call those things.
You just reminded me of something. You reminded me of something, Jace, because you said you don't have the light bar, the LED emblem, but everybody knows this about the Lightning. When you walk up to it, you get that hello. That light, everything comes on and the light bars come on. I really worked hard to try to get the LED emblem to come on with that. And there's only control voltage, very low voltage running up to that light bar. And without hacking into that wiring and trying to figure something out, the only way I could get it is with the headlights on. Yeah. So I really tried. I have a lot of people ask me about that. Why can't I get my LED emblem with the light bar on? I want it to come on when I walk up to the truck so that we get to see that animation. But without some relays and adding some more wiring and voltages, there's too low a voltage, and I just didn't want to risk, damaging that light bar as expensive as it is. So I decided not to go that route, and I didn't want to add another relay. So
that makes sense.
I like the dorky tech, man. I'm all in.
Me too.
Josh shouting us out here with the luxury.
So
all the luxury have light bars and a lit.
Let's get an update before we get to Jace. Let's get an update for what's new this week real quick. I know a lot of guys were talking about. I had the guys a couple weeks ago said, you guys talked about Tesla for half an hour. And I'm like, well, it is an EV show. It doesn't have to be about Fords the whole time, but we're partial to those. So what's new with you, Chris? Funny. What happened this week?
That's funny.
Man, I've had a mellow week. It's been really busy at work, so I have not caught up on a lot of EV videos and things. I think the one that I did see was the one from Tim where he was talking about they're going away from those retail distribution centers and things, and there was some really good content in there on that episode. If you're into the Lightning and just like the behind the scenes stuff of how a dealer operates, it was really fascinating because he was talking about little counterintuitive. So, they have incentives from Ford where every dealer has a certain number of goals. And let's say, for example, that a dealer's goal is you need to sell 10 EVs this quarter. In California, it's probably higher. In some other areas, it might be lower. But you're incentivized to sell your goal and you get certain bonuses. So dealers can sell at invoice because they're getting the bonuses back from Ford. So that's how there can, depending on where you go, you might get different pricing. What was interesting though is, the dealers in places that aren't California, maybe aren't Texas, or, places where they sell a lot of them, they're careful about that. So he was saying like they've already sold, 8 for the quarter. And as they go into March, they want to be careful because they don't necessarily want to sell another 8, because then Ford is going to say, oh, great, well, now we want you to sell 16. And so in their case, there's like an incentive there in a weird way not to stock the lot with a bunch of trucks. And that's where those retail distribution places were kind of helpful. And also, if you stock them on your lot, you're going to have to buy them. And if you buy them, a lot of times the dealers don't buy them outright. They buy them through like an interest payment program. And so they're racking up interest when they're sitting on your lot. And whereas, when they're sitting on that retail distribution hub or whatever, they're not. They're just waiting for you to pick from. So we'll be curious to see how that kind of works out for Ford. But interestingly, it would work in the other direction. For example, if it's coming up on the end of the quarter, they haven't hit their incentive, then somebody might be very motivated to move a bunch of Mach-E's and Lightnings because they need to hit that incentive if they want to get an allocation on the next batch. So that just the behind the scenes stuff to me is really fascinating. Yeah. It's the kind of love it and hate it part of a dealer. It's so complex, and it's weird to think
you're seeing that in the market too. I mean, I know we've talked with Pat on here a couple times, and he's in the process of getting that buyback finished with his Silverado, and he had a blue Flash on order, and this week messaged me and said, hey, I just went and looked at a Platinum tonight, of all things. And I was like, what? He's like, it was $24,000 worth of incentives and 0 for 72 on that Platinum, which was cheaper than a Flash. Wow. So I think that's the route he's going to go, which is he's not a bells and whistles. He hates the glass roof. But I think what your point was, those ability to give those kind of discounts through the dealers is allowing people to afford those upper trims or the lower trims at better pricing.
So you just might have to search around to find your deal. For some dealers, getting them at the beginning of the quarter might be good because they haven't sold any yet and they need to get some EV sales. Towards the end of the quarter may or may not help you. You almost want to ask them. If they're on
their books and they're going to pay towards the end of their line of credit, they're going to pay those curtailments on those loans. They need to move them, and so to get them off, especially if the 25s are coming and they know they've got an allotment coming, they don't want to sit there with a bunch of Lightnings on the lot, paying interest, paying curtailments. Yeah, that definitely can be if you search around, the deals are out there right now. If you're looking for a Lightning of about any class.
The really fascinating thing that I learned also is, and we've talked about this before, that for whatever reason that is yet to be explained, they switched the extended range Pro for fleet and the Flash to a 122 kilowatt hour battery on the extended range, which is still, I don't know.
Well, haven't yet, but maybe.
No, job 1 or job 2 trucks on 23, I think will be that way. But I think it's just software. I don't think that's a different.
But it still says subject to change on that job 2 as of right now.
Right.
And so it's not official yet. I mean, that could change at any time. I mean, we saw some crazy stuff on job 2s before that has never happened.
Never happened.
Sometimes never happened at all. But I think this is happening. It's just a matter of when, basically, and if it turns out that it makes sense. But I agree. I think it would be software, but it's weird.
So part of me think, I don't know, man. I don't know where I'm at, because it's not like Ford's team is known to do anything well with software. Do they know how to software limit a battery? I don't know.
From the factory, they can do pretty much anything from the factory.
They're doing it now.
It's easy.
They've done it from day one, though, Chris.
With the buffer.
My battery's 145 kilowatt, and you only have access to 131. So there's buffers in there. They can do it.
Yeah, I'm curious if that's. What's the rationale? You're not saving any money that way. So what's the rationale?
No.
I agree. That's the confusing part to me, is what is the rationale? Like LFP made sense, but it doesn't sound like that's the case. I mean, I guess we really don't know for sure. I mean, nobody's really said anything, but from what it sounded like, Tim sounded like it was NCM, and
Well, let's
Yeah.
get a
No
Ford
different.
engineer on here who can talk a little bit, not on stuff that's new, but stuff reasoning now that they know. I know there's a video that I just
Good
saw that
luck.
I'm going to watch.
Yeah,
I
I know.
know.
We could
There's
keep
a
trying.
Ford-
You know.
There's a Ram Charger video that just popped that I haven't watched yet, but he's got a Ram Charger engineer on, and they go through a lot of the current specs and stuff that's coming. And I'm sure there are things that they can say and they can't say, but even if they could talk about reasoning in the past on the Lightning, that's out public,
Yeah.
you know,
They did a lot of that same stuff though when they were launching Lightning. You know, we saw so much from the Ford, you know, in media, you know, everybody at Ford, and it's seemingly taken a little break now for a while, but I think they're just waiting for something to talk about. To be honest with you, you know, there's not really much to talk about right now. So
What's so crazy though is I'm waiting to see the pricing. I know you talked about Canadian pricing is out, and I'm really curious when they drop the US pricing, because if they don't change the price, if it's not a lower price, if it's the same, you really have to get yourself educated about what truck am I buying. Because if I'm buying a 24 Flash, because I asked them, hey, does that mean the retail distribution centers have all been sold out and now they're waiting for, you know, the new ones to arrive? No, there's still inventory in some of them. So as they arrive, or as people allocate them to dealers, you could have a 24, you could have a 25 job one, which are still out there, he said, and then 25 job twos. And so depending on which you have, you might have the smaller battery for the same price. And so it's that'll be interesting to see how that works. If I'm looking for a Flash, I am doing my darndest to get that extra 10 kilowatt hours if it's me.
Absolutely.
And
I have not seen a 25 yet for sale,
No.
personally. I've looked, and I have not within 500 miles, at least of me. And they pop up pretty quickly in Michigan if they, you know, obviously if they are for sale, but haven't seen anything yet. So
I think it's all gone to fleet customers so far. And you know, the Lightnings are so similar. You know, around the Bay Area, I see so many Lightning fleet vehicles, and I try to capture them, but by the time I realize it's there, I don't have time to take the picture of them. But it's I wouldn't know a 25 from a 24 from a 23 when it comes to fleet. But I saw a really cool one with like a lift gate on the back of it, and I was like, oh wow, that is so cool. I hadn't seen one with a lift gate before put on there, but yeah, you can't tell the difference. It's not like some other vehicles where you can be like, oh, there's a 25. They look exactly the same, and so it'd be tough to tell a fleet one if it rolled by me, to be honest, you know.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to kind of see how it all shakes out.
Well,
we would consider a platinum all black accent package, perhaps, if one comes available towards the end of next year. Maybe that would be something that would make us jump. But I don't love the white and black of the current platinum personally. I don't know. Just I like all black personally, but
yeah. So speaking of that, I think I had talked to everybody a little bit about what was coming at Martin Rebuilds, and it kind of fell through today of all things. We had that Unicorn XLT extended range with and I don't know that this is necessarily Unicorn, but with lane centering and adaptive cruise control, which is the stuff that I would really want for my area because we don't have a lot of Blue Cruise roads. But the truck that we were trying to buy did not get bought from the owner. He let it go back to the insurance pool, and it's already on Copart up in the St. Louis area. So we're going to watch that and find out if that comes up for a decent price. We might still buy it. I'd still like to have the truck. 23 with 11,000 miles. I mean, and I talked to him today. It's got a lot of upgrades, a lot of subwoofers, and he's upgraded the speaker system. He's got like two 12-inch subwoofers on the back seat. So, I mean, it's upgraded quite a bit. He's got seat covers on it. I was excited to get it. I thought we were headed to St. Louis this weekend to pick it up. And I wanted to stop at the Cars and Coffee in St. Charles on my way with the Lightning at that, because I've not been to one of our Midwest Lightning Club events yet, and they're just so far away. And I was like, well, we're going to be close. We're going to stop. And it just all didn't pan out, especially with the weather. I guess in Iowa, they were getting hammered with a blizzard. So,
yeah.
Anyhow.
Yeah. And then you also just sold an electric something. What did you just
sold? We had bought I put on the YouTube channel, we bought an electric Gator with the intentions of using it around the house and lithium swapping that to a couple of big 150 amp hour lithium batteries. And things just didn't work out like I wanted. I work for Deere, and I wanted Deere product here to support what I do. And the Gator's it was a great little buggy, John Deere Gator, full electric. They're lead acid batteries, 48 volt. And we just decided that we're going to keep the Can-Am instead of the Gator. The Can-Am rides smoother, and we can ride it up and down the road. We can take it, 50 miles if we want. The Gator was a 13-mile-an-hour buggy. And it's really, really cool because driving it around your yard, it's quiet. You can jump on and off of it easy. There's no starting it every time. It has regen, meaning when you pull down a hill, it just stops. It's like driving the truck. And I love it for that. They ride rough. That's a typical Gator of any gas or battery. Has a huge bed, but threw it up there, and a guy from Rhode Island bought it, and I just loaded it on the big rig tonight to head to Rhode Island. So we're not going to end up building that one into something, but like I showed next week, I'm still thinking about that electric Ranger, that 2000 electric Ranger. So that could happen.
I selfishly want that so bad. I want to see that thing get built. It would be that would be fun to see.
If it sits there for about a month or two and it hasn't sold, I'm going to go pick it up. Because I think I can put some batteries in and drive that thing 100 miles. You could put 30 kilowatts of battery in it, 40 maybe, and get 100 miles out of it driving to me back and forth to work, which is most of my week. I just think it's cool.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I don't know if you've seen one of those, Jay. So we talked about it last week. The 2000, they made like 1,000 of them. Most of them got crushed. If it was like an extended cab 4-wheel drive, I would have already went and got it, because then you've got a truck that, it's just a little 2-wheel drive. You and your wife, or you and your dog, or something to drive around it.
But anyway. I'd love to roll into like Electrify Expo in a,
well, I was
Ford Ranger EV.
It's funny you mentioned that, because it's not hard to add the DC fast charging module to be able to DC fast charge that. Pat and I were talking about it, and I would definitely do that, so I could actually go outside of 100-mile range. Just pull into something in a Ranger that you drove across country.
I want to see you pop a Tesla battery pack in there, man. That's what I want to see.
I have one.
There you go.
So speaking of Tesla, I'm not going to give away too much here. But we have another friend, Zach, out of Tulsa. Zach's, I think, been on here a couple times. Zach's working on some really cool stuff, and we've kind of been collaborating. I think you all know we've been working on this genset thing. Him and I have been talking a lot about it. That's progressing, getting closer to out of the design phase into the maybe we're going to start building one. But Zach's worked with some stuff. I won't say too much, but he's worked with a company to try to maybe add a NACS port to it, Lightning. And I'm just going to leave it at that. And because I want him to give me more permission to say more, but it's something he's working on. So I'm excited to hear and talk to him more about that, because I think that's going to be a big deal.
Would you add it to the passenger side so it's easy to plug in? And
I'll talk to you about it offline. I don't want to give Zach's stuff away yet, because it's really cool. But it's something he's trying to do. I think it's something we need, and it sounds like it could go wherever you wanted it to go on the truck. But it's once you have the capability and the interface between the battery and that port, you can put it where you want to put it. So it got my wheels a spinning, thinking, hey, could I do this tail light that would slide out and it would be behind the tail light? I don't know if you've seen the tail lights on the truck where they slide out and there's like a whole tool rack in there. They make those. And I was like, if I could slide it forward and then, or a flip down tag, like the old school gas tanks and the NACS ports behind the tag.
Did you see that viral video of the B-2 stealth bomber, how it refuels? It's got like a little flap door on the top, and it opens up and it just flips, whoop, and then they refuel it. It's so cool. Like, you could do it, something like that.
Yeah, just make it.
To have the one flap, whoop, and then on the other side, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Anyway. So Jay,
that's awesome.
Let's get into with Chase, man. How the trip goes.
Yeah.
Talk about
so it was a good trip. Yeah, it really was a good trip. We took my standard range, which we usually do because we put a lot of miles on our extended range just in general. So to keep miles off that, we usually take my standard range, which sounds odd, but really it evens out to about the same amount of time. And the 45-mile trips, we can't really make it on one stop with the extended range unless it's really summer sometimes, or we really, try to hypermile. So it's in some cases, actually, we end up spending less time at the charger with the standard range than we do with the extended range, if we go all the way to 80, of course, which we usually do anyway, because, if it's only 1 or 2 stops, we're, grabbing food real quick or something, and it's only a 24, sometimes minute stop. And so really it's not very long, by the time it's ready to go. So first trip with ARBP Premium. It was good. The trip there was not good. To start off, the time function was just not working really well. But as far as like having the choice of chargers, it's so much better than Apple Maps, which with just its general like knowledge of, there's a new EVgo that opened up. Oh, there's, this, it can use everything, right? And obviously with the Tesla superchargers right off the bat, like boom, I just hit my mic. Boom, that's a big one. What else? The information as far as like how many chargers were available, I found that was to be quite buggy. It wasn't right 99% of the time. We got to one, it said there was like only one available. We got to it, there was like 6 available. That was on EVgo and Tesla. So some work needs to be done there. So on the trip, the way there, not great. We charged at 500 amps, so, and had some decent stops. So that's always nice. And then coming home, we had to stop 3 times, unfortunately. And we had a stop that wasn't super optimized. It was like a Ready that was at like, I don't know, 125, 130. But we just sat there and dealt with it and got Jimmy John's. It was no big deal. We actually charged next to a EV charger, so that was cool. Saw one for the first time. Guy had like a low jack system on the on the steering wheel, which I thought was crazy. So he was like charging up to 100% by the time I got back. So but this trip down for the 3 back home with the 3 stops, ARBP Premium worked really, really well. The timing function worked great. I don't know why it didn't work on the first trip well, but it worked great on the second one. Again, the availability is off. It's not quite right, but not a big, not a huge deal. So overall, I have kind of mixed feelings, I guess, mixed thoughts, but I would definitely use it. And the cool part is that you can do ARBP Premium at the same time. You can do Apple Maps. So if you really want to, you can just kind of compare them against each other. Yeah, especially because ARBP Premium uses the OBD and Apple Maps doesn't need an OBD. It just uses the truck data. So you can kind of switch between the two. And it's kind of funny because the truck will actually switch the turn-by-turn directions in the gauge cluster as well, because ARBP Premium does the gauge cluster turn-by-turn, which is really nice. And so does Apple Maps. So you'll see it kind of switch, which is funny. But yeah,
did you try that with the factory navigation and a better route planner? Did not.
Okay, I probably should try factory nav more just to mess around with it. Robert would be very proud of me, and I should do that. I'll do it for Robert. I
stops in it. Because I pull all the time. It's so much better than anything else. Because I was going to ask you how you're a better route planner.
So accuracy
I subscribe to what because you told me with Premium, it gives you more options, and it must be a difference in I'm an Android nut, and I know you run Apple. I have 0 options. Once you hit start, you can't change anything on the truck screen, and that drives me nuts. I have to pick up my phone, and I was wondering if CarPlay actually worked where you had a little more screen interaction.
You can change the routes, but you can't really choose individual chargers. You can do a little bit of stuff, but there's still some limitations to it. But yeah, you can technically change the routes, but it's not very optimized is really the answer.
And that's really, I guess that's kind of the situation. But I noticed if you pick up your phone, at least on Android, and you might speak to this, if you pick up your phone and you just hit the back button while you're in a live route, it turns it off on the phone and the truck. And then you're just back to playing a new route.
Yeah. So
I'd have to either tell the truck to go back to a spot or use my phone, which is kind of counterintuitive to hands-free. That's the reason I like Google EV routing so well, because I can just tell it to change a stop or tell it to, change in route location. So I didn't know how that worked out for you.
Yeah, it's not great. And the accuracy was about the same. There were multiple times where we beat it by like 10%, which, I kind of,
really?
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I kind of guessed that would be the case. I just had a feeling. Apple Maps does kind of the same thing. I think for the temps, it estimates especially that it's going to be way worse than it is. And up there is 75 miles an hour, so it probably thinks that we're going to do pretty quick too. And I don't quite go 75.
That's probably the difference. Yeah, so I tried that same thing, a better route planner and Google EV routing, when I went to Florida to take Joe's truck back. And Google EV routing was, I had to go to 20% at each charge stop to arrive with 9 or 10. It was off. But I was running 80 when it's 75 mile an hour speed limit. And you know, I did that the first stop, and it was consistent. I mean, it's a better route planner is supposed to learn, but even then, it'll tell you you're gonna get there with 10%, and you'll be able to have 3 or 4 when I'm towing anyway, because I've done that a better route planner a lot towing, and but every time if it says you're gonna have 10, you're gonna get there with 4. I mean, it was really consistent, just consistently off in the direction you don't want it to be.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. We're always pretty the same for Apple Maps. We always beat it. But you know, that's fine. And we kind of have come to anticipate it, you know, so if it's, you know, and we can move it down all the way to 5%. So, you know, we're even really close to 0% if we really want to, but I put it at 5. So that way I knew that if it said 5, I could probably most likely at least get 12, maybe 15. So, and that's kind of how it ended up, you know, working out. But yeah, all in all, it was a good trip. I'll tell you one thing I was really pleasantly surprised by is that we had multiple instances where we were going 74, 70-ish, and our efficiency was great. Even this was my first real long road trip with the Duratrack RTs, and they're great. Like I barely lose any efficiency with those things. So they are lighter, all-terrain. They're not. What'd you say?
What'd you see for efficiency?
On the way there, I think it was 1.7, 1.8. On the way back, 1.6, 1.7, about similar. On the way back, we kind of hustled a little bit, but again, we were in 30 degrees and below. So
okay, that's about right. And then any wind or pretty well steady?
On the way home, we had a great tailwind. On the way there, we had a horrible headwind. So, but it ended up kind of evening out. Yeah, because we kind of followed some semis and tried to, you know, make it as. I only try to follow a semi if he's going like 1 or 2 under. Other than I'll ditch him. But sometimes you can find some that are going like 75, you know, and just cruise behind them. But yeah, all in all, like I really like those dirt tracks. They're quiet. It was great. You know, Blue Cruise was great. So, you know, you can't really complain. Yeah.
Well, you have another option now anyway. That's the thing with these charging stops. You know, you've got really we have 3 options for navigation. That's what we wanted to talk about tonight. We did a little bit last night, went into some specifics, and I wanted to get into Chris's trip that's coming up because I've got basically the reverse trip that he's taken this summer in the end of June. And you really have the factory navigation, which people talk crap on. And really the biggest problem with the factory navigation right now is not having the Tesla stops loaded. If they were in there, I would use it because you don't have to mess with any OBD2s. You just plug it in and it goes. And you can tell Alexa to change stops. You can tell Alexa or the truck to turn up or down your stereo volume or your fan speed or any of that. I like the factory navigation, and it is the only navigation you can run in the Lightning that with towing, it'll work and it'll get you there. You know, because I usually get between 1.0 and 1.2 when I'm pulling a truck. We did that over the weekend. We ran 2 260-mile trips over this last weekend, and I had 1 charging stop on both times, you know, down and back charging stop for 15-20 minutes. And I actually ran Google EV just because I knew where I was going to stop, and I didn't, but I switched over to the factory navigation once to see. It estimated the arrival percentage, and we had that when we got there. I know you can do the same thing with a better route planner on towing. You have to have premium and you have to have it connected for it to learn those efficiencies of your truck, because it is building a database in the background. And if you go in and click through it, you can actually see how much at what speeds there's low, medium, or high speed, and it builds that kind of that platform, if you will, that says, okay, you're going to get this efficiency at this speed, this speed, and this speed. But I still, long trips, if I don't know where I'm going and I don't know where I'm stopping, don't have it all planned out, I absolutely will run the factory navigation. And I have never been on a trip that I haven't planned with a better route planner. Of the 75,000 miles that we've driven in Lightnings all over the country, it is the one go-to that I've seen. I did get to play with Tesla's app this week in planning a trip, because I thought I was going to northern Iowa to see my buddy Paul, and they have a route planner in the Tesla app, and I didn't realize that. You can tell it you're going to leave with a percentage, and it will route you there, and it'll tell you, you can actually put in when you're going to leave and all that stuff, and it really worked out really, really well. So,
fun fact: Ford had their route planner in their app before Tesla did, and then removed it.
Yeah,
so, there you go.
The stuff sometimes is like, what? You used to be able to control my Pro Power with the app.
That should be back. I think that'll come back, but I think it might be
reworking it. I got a feeling there's stuff happening in the background. We're going to see some good things coming soon.
Oh yeah, do you see the service tab? It looks good. They redid that. That looks really good.
Is that on beta? Or is that everybody's got that?
Public, yeah. Yep, everybody's got it. Yeah, check it out.
Check that out. Yeah. The Josh mentioning that he pulled into a charging spot that it said he wouldn't make, but he was pretty much dying as he did it. That's awesome. I had a question about the cold temperature driving, because I know that when it's cold outside, you lose a bit of your range. I was curious about the battery chemistry side of that. So something that I noticed, and it kind of made me realize maybe it works differently than I thought, or maybe it was just a BMS error. It was, we had a couple days that were California cold, we'll call it, the high 30s, not quite freezing. And it impacted my range like I thought. Then as the day went on, it actually climbed all the way into the 70s and everything warmed up. When it warmed up and I went back to my truck at the end of the day, after I'd been sitting in the parking lot at work, I had gained range.
Yeah.
It had reversed itself and kind of come back up again, giving it to me.
Though. That's that thing that drives me crazy, is they have that algorithm in the background that's looking at that temperature outside, especially if you use the factory nav or even Apple Maps, they're pulling that from that truck. So yeah, if you park it and 30-degree weather and get in it at 80, it knows what you're about to drive through. The problem with it is you didn't lose anything, Chris. The same amount of energy in that battery. It's just guesstimating how far you can go.
So if you're in your standard range, Jace, and you're charging at 10 degrees or whatever, and let's say you're down at 5%, are you actually using 95 kilowatt hours from the charger, or is there physically less cells available to even charge? Like, when you charge, are you charging? Am I making sense? Like, I'm trying to figure out.
I understand what you're saying. So it is a formula of voltage times amperage to get you your kilowatts. Volts times amps. So if you got 315 kilowatts or 310 volts times however many amps you're pulling, that's what you're going to get. So yes.
Are you kind of asking if there's like a cold buffer?
Yeah, not a cold buffer so much, but if it's like, so when it's cold, the available, if I'm understanding you right, the available kilowatt hours when it's cold is less. And
no, it's just the truck guessing.
Okay.
That's all it is.
That's what it's just the truck simply guessing because exactly. The same kilowatt hour is sitting in that battery. It's just the truck guessing. And that's why when the temperature rising, the truck is guessing more because it's simply just guessing. But to answer your other side of your question, the way we circumvent that, because yes, we would use more kilowatt hour for our climate use or whatever else. But again, like Martin said, energy is energy. There's no really difference. It's just how much more you're using versus how much less you're using. So how we circumvent that is preconditioning. So that's huge, especially for our trips where, we'll charge all the way to 100% and then set a departure time. So that battery can come all the way up to temp. And like we've kind of talked about before, the Lightning does a pretty good job at holding battery temp. So if you can get it up to 60, even, 55, I've even seen, and get it at least there, it will hold it pretty well, until you get to your next stop. And then you get to your first stop and boom, it'll shoot all the way up to, I've seen 98, 100 degrees, and then it'll hold that heat for a good amount of time. You really see though, Chris, to be honest, you see at like 40 degrees, it's not so bad. You see at 32 degrees, you start getting a little worse, but then you start seeing like 20 to 25 or lower, or 25 to 20 lower. Yeah. Then you really start, and you can kind of watch it on the climate usage, and you can kind of see, where you're losing. And there's definitely been some times in 17s, 10, where it starts to drop off a cliff. You start to go from 1.6 to 1.5 to 1.3, and then you're like, oh boy, like we're in the cold. But how we kind of circumvent that is really just precondition.
Now, if you're at a charging stop, are you kind of extra heating your cabin temperature as well, or are you just letting it be and it's pretty okay? And
yeah, usually just letting it go for the most part. Depends on if we have the dogs with us and they're in the back, and the infamous F-150 lack of vents, in the back. So we try to keep it a little warm for them. But I mean, that's the nice part about the F-150, right? Like you turn on the heater, it doesn't, the lighting, it doesn't matter.
Like a Chevy.
Exactly.
Kills your charging.
But yeah, and I mean, what's another great thing about the Lightning too that we just don't see, that we don't need to do, I guess I should say, is precondition for charging. I mean, we've never, maybe once when we first got the truck, used the factory nav, and so we've never preconditioned at a DCFC stop ever since we've owned both Lightnings, and we've never had a problem. We've always jumped 90% of the time. We've never had a problem. And if we do have a problem, it's the charger.
Have you pulled in knowing that battery's at like 30 degrees before and tried? Or is it usually in the 50s or 60s because you've been
usually it'll stay up to the 40s and but we have plugged in even at like, I think in Snowshoe it got really cold. I think we plugged in at like, it was like 35, 40
battery
degrees.
Battery. And it was pretty good.
And we got up, that was a 120 kilowatt charger, and we got up right up to, it was like 117, 120 within a few minutes. So, and like 1 minute, not even a few, like a couple minutes, we were right up to the top.
Tesla is exactly the opposite. If you don't have that battery warmed up, in my experience with the older Model S, I plugged in at 50% state of charge, and the Mach-E was similar, but it was really low. The Mach-E made a 30 kilowatt difference, preconditioning or not.
Tesla really likes to be at the bottom of the pack in order to unleash its best charging, and then it falls off a cliff
which is it's an oxymoron in the sense, or it's hitting against each other, because you're at the bottom of the pack, which means your pack temperature is probably a little colder because you've been driving longer, so it's lower. Yep, you're all the above is kind of like hurting it against each other, but that's why I think people love, if you could make the Lightning curve and bring it up to 215, even 220, like even 250, 300, and do that same curve where you get the 10-minute, which now seems like more of like a 9-minute, but 8-minute boost. It'd be amazing in any part of above, at least below 50, 60%.
Right. And in this the new release that got coming out that Tom posted this week, that you get the same boost. I mean, close to we were seeing 170 before, 170, 175.
Yeah, and it really always, I've seen 7 to 10 minutes. It kind of has varied for me a few times.
But it holds it so much longer. And I don't mean
as it kind of comes down.
That gradual drop. So you get that, before it just falls off a cliff to 120 every time. And now we're not seeing that. We're seeing that gradual. It saved about 6 minutes on a charge, which doesn't sound like a lot. But Chris, you mentioned a minute ago about cold weather charging. And what I have found when I'm running north and it's cold, I stop more often during those boost cycles, because you're putting so much energy in that battery's heating fast. And I just stop more often and boost. Like on our last trip, it was every hour and 15 minutes, but we were only stopping for like 15 minutes.
You're not on Twitter, Martin, but I had a whole post where, and I should probably just start posting this stuff on Facebook so people can see it there too. But we have been charging at that curve since November now, I believe, and didn't know it really. But then I took Tom's data and took it against the 2024 specs, and then took it against our extended range and our standard range, and the numbers add up perfectly. It's about 32 minutes for a 15 to 80 for our standard range, and I can't remember what the new one is. 39 minutes, I think, for the extended range.
I had exactly the same experience, because before we finished Joe's truck, I used FDRS to update all 3 trucks, the 22, the 23, and his 22.
Yep.
And every one of those trucks were 44 minutes dead on from 10 to 80 before. Now it's about 37, 38 minutes or so, depending on the charger. Yep. I saw 193 the other day is the fastest I have seen. And it holds that so high. Like you're talking about you're talking about in the 50s, 50 or almost to 60%. If I pull in at 40, it'll boost into 50, almost 60% before it drops that boost off, which is fantastic for being that.
Yep.
But, it makes sense because at 50%, our voltages are probably in the 370, 360, 370. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but that's pretty interesting that you guys are seeing it early too. But I know a lot of people are going to start seeing this as a push coming out. It's going to start getting pushed to the 22s and the 23s. We just happened to get it early because we used FDRS and it was there.
And I actually got it from the dealer through the CSP, which is crazy. Didn't even know it or realize it at the time.
They did exactly what I did. They used FDRS, updated the modules that required that, and boom, you got it. And so,
and it was funny because I posted a picture on Twitter, like, I think this was our West Virginia trip or right around there. Chris, do you remember? I posted the first time I posted Car Scanner, and it was like, I think it was Eric Rowe or Brendan Flash or maybe even you, Chris, and people were like, how are you charging at 500 amps? And I was like, huh? Like, it didn't even put two and two together. And then I looked at it and I was like, oh yeah, it did. It maxed out at 450, right? People were like, yeah, like, how are you doing that? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't even know when it changed. And it kind of coincided with us not taking any road trips at the same time because we were here dealing with family stuff. And so we weren't going to Northern Michigan a lot. And so we weren't going on road trips really. And the West Virginia one was the first one in a while. And or you know what? It is actually a trip up north during Christmas, right before the West Virginia trip. And that's when I took it. And people were like, how are you doing that? And I had no idea when it switched. I had no clue. But now that we've kind of gotten all the information, it totally makes sense of when it happened. The dealer did it when they came here to my house actually and did our trucks in our driveway. That's when they updated the software and it totally all adds up. And crazy. We've seen about, I think 185, 187, the highest that we've seen on the extended range. And then since on the standard range, I think 177 or 178 was the highest I saw.
That's
this
about
past
right.
trip.
Considering that.
Yeah, I discovered it when I did my trip down to Legoland, and I posted my video. If you look back at when I stopped at Rove charging.
Yeah. I remember that.
My first stop was at Harris Ranch, and I was excited. I was like, "Oh man, this is a new high for me." I had like 168 or something, and I was like, "Oh, 168, that's a new best for me. That's really cool to see." Okay, moving on, and I get down to Rove charging. And it hits 177, exactly what you said. And at the time, I thought maybe it had something to do with the fact that it had the version 4 dispensers, which I know didn't make any sense because...
See, I kind of thought Tesla too, because I was thinking, like it must like maybe the superchargers or the adapters, and they've changed the boost a little bit. I wasn't sure either. I was wondering the same exact thing. But and car scanner just kind of became a thing too at the same time. So because we wouldn't have known unless the charger you're using shows the amps, like I think EVgo does, but not very many do.
You mentioned that you had hit 500 amps when you were on your recent trip, but you were using a Better Route Planner, which uses the OBD2. Were you able to use both Car Scanner and a Better Route Planner Premium at the same time, or did you log out of one?
No, you have to switch between them. But the nice part is the one that I bought, the more expensive, what is that? The CX Martin, something like that.
Yeah,
I think it's the CX
OBD
model.
CX.
Yeah, OBD Link. Yeah, CX. Instead of the VP, it's a little. You can like switch quicker. I don't know exactly how it does it, but it's always working. My VP was old, ancient too. I should say I used it on like my Mach-E, so it was old, but it would always disconnect. I had so many issues, and I was gonna buy another one, but I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna buy the best model. And so you can really quickly switch between ARBP Premium and Car Scanner. All you have to do is make sure you turn on automatic login on for Car Scanner, and then you can just switch the app right on the truck screen into Car Scanner, and boop, it'll load up and it'll automatically connect, and you're good to go.
And then when you switched back, did you have to disconnect from Car Scanner, or
I think you do have to disconnect then it's Car Scanner, but then you go into ARBP Premium, and I believe it connected automatically again to ARBP.
I really want to be able to do dual at once. That's one of my banes in my existence when I'm using Benai's box trying to run a Better Route Planner, because I can't. Yeah. I really love my Benai's box for the Car Scanner layout. I think you guys have seen some of those fancy layouts. I love. I'm a tech nerd, but I can't get it to do that without hitting the disconnect button. You can't run dual at once. The way Bluetooth, the way it communicates, you can't. But it's quick. I mean, it's pretty fast.
I will say though, like ARBP Premium really had all the information that I needed on my phone, not on the Cars Play screen, which was kind of I thought that it would do that. It did not.
Because on Android Auto through a better route planner, now wait a minute, Jace, did you say a better route planner or car scanner?
A better route planner.
Okay, yeah, the Benai's box gives you a lot more when you're running through it, like the CarPlay box.
Gotcha.
But it's also more glitchy. I think Chris and I talked about it a little bit last week. It'll disconnect on you, all in all, it's probably my favorite towing app. If I'm not towing, I'm probably not using it. I'm probably just going to use Google EV routing. But a better route planner does give you a little bit, but not as much as your phone.
Yeah, I kind of just ended up using having premium on the CarPlay screen and then having my phone just kind of on it with that new magnet thing that I bought that goes on the coolant holder thing. That thing's awesome.
Yeah, those are sweet.
I love that thing. It's so cool. And so I just had that on there with all of, the kilowatt, and I think it gives you battery temp, and I don't know if it gives you amps, but at that point, I don't really care. I know I'm charged at 500 amps. I just want to see the kilowatts and watch it come down. So, yeah, I mean, it worked with the time, like I said, on the way back worked really well. The time left to charge function worked really well. I do think it's underestimating how fast we charge now. I think it still thinks like 450 amps for what it's guessing, because we were beating the times that it was guesstimating to charge by 2-3 minutes each time.
You can set that in the app. I don't know if you've played with the settings in a better route planner. You can go in and tell it.
But
yeah, you can tell it what you want.
Can you say 500 amps or?
Well, it's not at amps. It's doing it off a kilowatt. So you can say, what I try to do is guesstimate what my average kilowatt speed would be over the stop that I'm going to stop at. So if I know I'm going 10 to 80, probably going to average in that 140 range over the whole stop. If you just do a stop and divide out how many minutes was I there divided by how much kilowatts did I get, you can get a pretty good number. If it's a quick stop, you'll be averaging in that 160 range. So there's some settings in a better route planner that you can actually tweak so that they're accurate. But it's at the end of the day, it's going to take what it's going to take, and it's not that far off.
Real quick, I want to get, I was just about to say the same thing, Chris. I actually know what Josh's problem could be. Josh, we kind of have the same exact issue. Actually, I don't know what charger you're using, but
I think he's got the Ford, the big one.
Interesting. Okay. See, we have a Duo, and preconditioning is a funky thing. Our Duo does the truck faults every single time we go to precondition, specifically only during departure times.
Yours was like brick and fault though. It wasn't like
it's done both, to be honest with you. It's done where it hasn't bricked, and then it's done a couple times where it's bricked. So it's kind of similar. I don't know if it's with the Ford Charge Station Pro though.
Josh, chime in and tell us what fault are you seeing, and we'll see if we can work through that, because I know
probably just stops charging is my guess, is what he means.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. But that could be, and shout out too, since we're talking about, guests. I had this up a minute ago, but I know we talked to Everything Jeep and Outdoors last week. I guess he had a good trip. I don't know how this Ford adding nav charge stops worked. It must have been that those were the Magic Dock stations, because they are not loaded in a Lightning. So Magic Dock stations, there's a few in there, but I don't know how you added Tesla superchargers.
I wonder if you could just add them as a waypoint, but it wouldn't know that you're heading to a charger. It would just.
But I've got a video on that, and that's a pain. I mean, if you guys go watch my video on how to add Tesla stops in the Ford nav, it's a pain to do it. But they're not going to precondition going to those. I know. I haven't confirmed that they'll precondition going to the ones that are loaded, the Magic Dock stations. I don't have any Magic Dock stations close enough to me to be able
I've seen a couple people report the same. I think Joe Schultz showed me one where he's like, look, it's here. And I'm like, wow, it must be because of
it's only those Magic Dock stations that you're seeing. So, and he's saying he did see some charge speeds up to 175 kilowatts at the Tesla charging station. I don't remember if that was an extended range or a standard range, but that's about right. If it's a standard range, that's a little low on extended range. So probably when he'll get that update, that should bump you up to that 185, 190 if everything is right. You've preconditioned. It's not super cold, which doesn't seem to affect the Lightning like we're mentioning. And more importantly, if your state of charge isn't over like 50%.
Yeah, and we've actually seen a little bit faster speeds on EA too than Tesla superchargers. Depending, and sometimes EV go.
I ran Joe's truck all the way to Florida, and I only used EA one time, And the highest I've seen was 193. I peaked at 185 on EA. So I think it depends on the station and all the stars
usage
right.
and yes, exactly.
Yeah, everything's
exactly.
kind of go just right.
Maybe we can answer Stephanie's question. I have not seen any degradation on either of our trucks. We have not done a full like BMS reset though, and run it all the way to 0, then charge it all the way to 100 and let it reset and see, do that. I think you got to what's the rule? Roaming Norway was talking about this. There's some really to get a true gauge, you really need to do like a full state of health. But according to Car Scanner, we have 0% deg in both of our trucks after 2.5
years. I was going to ask about Car Scanner when it does is that accurate when Car Scanner says, I think on mine it says 99.5 was the battery health or something.
Is that truck's reporting? So I wouldn't say that's Car Scanner. That's just what the truck's reporting. But again, if you look at that at 10%, or you look at that at 100%, or if you look at it, that's going to be different. If you've only been going between 50 and 80 every day forever, it's not going to be as accurate as if you can go to 100 and back to 0. If you go into a Tesla, you can run a 24-hour test on a Tesla. So the first thing they want you to do is get it to 50%, and then it takes it all the way to 0, and then it runs it all the way to 100, and then it gives you a number, a degradation number. Yeah. So that's really the key. So it's really the truck doing it. So my trucks, we've seen when I sold my 22 extended range, which I have DC fast charged a ton, had 97.5% at 64,000 miles. My 23 has 27,000 miles on it right now, shows 100%, no degradation. But that aligned with the last truck that I had. It until I hit about 30, did it start 30 to 35? Did it start dropping? Jace, do you know what yours says right now by chance? Not that it matters, but
the deg total.
Yeah, you on either truck possibly.
They both say 0. They both are at 100%.
And how many miles are you at?
44. I can tell you exactly. 44 on the extended range and 18 on the standard.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I was in that.
But I will say, I have seen it go down to 99.5 occasionally, but then it goes right back up to 100. Right. But I have seen it bounce. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Josh sent his code that he was seeing. I just kind of pasted it into a Word document here.
We're at 41 and 18.
Yeah, there you go.
Where is this thing?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird. I'm guessing charger though, Josh. That's like my guess. Like if I could just say what it is, if I could guess, it's charger. And if you get the red rings, that's basically the truck telling you it's. Well, I guess it depends on what. Oh, what's that makes me nervous when I see that.
No, those.
Oh, that's what he sees.
Yeah, but see, I've seen those. Everybody sees this screen and they freak out about it. Powertrain malfunction is going to come up with anything that goes wrong. I've seen that.
Could be thousands of things. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's not necessarily a module. Now, I'm not saying it can't be a module, but I'm saying that this is. I see this all the time. The red ring of death that people hate at chargers, I have seen on my 22 about 50 times, and it's 99% of that time. It's when you don't have it clicked in good, or there's something wrong with the charger.
Yep. I'm guessing, Josh, that's the problem with your something about the charger.
Yes, Josh. Go to a level 2 charger somewhere, plug it in, and set a precondition. See if it does it at another charger.
Idea. Yep, that would eliminate it right there for you. Yep.
Just to know if it's not your charger. Because, I mean, you can pick up, if your charger's bad, you can pick those up for $300 or $400. Or I would suggest now going and buying the Grizzle E because it's an 80 amp charger. And it's like they had it on sale. I don't know if it's
or the Mini if you want a portable option, which we just used during our trip this weekend. And let me tell you, it is awesome. The app and the data that it gives. It it's the mobile charger is not bad, but again, you're charging at 30 amps right on a Lightning mobile charger. So it's nice to have that extra 40 amps and to be able to change the max current right on the app. So cool.
So if you notice that I'm really curious now. This has got me spinning a little bit. I don't think the 24s come loaded with the Tesla navigation. So everything Jeep and Outdoors.
Correct.
Get on my YouTube channel and send me Martin Rebuilds and send me a message. Even on Facebook, you can look me up on Facebook. I'm on there all over.
At least I don't think they do. I don't
think they do, but I would like to see a screenshot if you can.
I thought it was the 25, the 25 Mach E.
Yeah,
right. Which I'm assuming will be Lightning too, but I don't know about.
I want to. The old saying my grandpa used to say, I'm from Missouri. I'm from the show me state. Show me. I want to see this. Send me a screenshot.
And
or something.
we've seen crazier things, so I never say no at this point because we never say never.
Yeah,
I've seen some crazy stuff where I'm like, what? No way.
Like, speaking of crazy, this is something else too. I personally haven't done a travel trailer. I've done a lot of enclosed trailers towing. The guy who's like the king, Fine Sergio, he did from Florida to California, towing a travel trailer early before our charging network was even good. And Sergio is probably done the longest cross-country travel trailer towing of all of us.
I'm actually guessing there's somebody else out there. And I love Sergio. He's the OG. He knows that I love him. Shout out Sergio. But Mark Eakin and Matt Lynn. But Mark Eakin has gone they just had a conversation about this today. Sergio was the very first to do it in the Lightning. The very first. He beat Mark Eakin by about 1 month, but Mark Eakin has done it round trip.
Yeah. Now, I don't think Mark's trailer was near as big as Sergio's, but
could be. I don't know. That I don't know.
So what we're talking about here is Sergio Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's on the
Liftgate. On Twitter
at all the channels. You can find him. Go look up towing. There's a lot of guys.
We'll have Sergio on sometime. He's fun.
Lift Gift is his thing.
Excuse me. Yes. Gifts. Yeah, not Gate. Yeah, sorry.
So,
but yeah, and then there's also
Joe Schultz is a big travel trailer. Yeah,
Norway. Schultz.
I think it's.
We need to get Joe on this, by the way, one day.
He would love to come on too. He said he would love to come on, and
just so we can get him to say his last name, and then we're gonna kick him off.
Yeah. I went to Norway with the guy. You would think I knew how to say his last name, but yeah.
That's like Patrick. I had to ask him before that last episode when he was on and say, "Hey, now tell me this before I butcher it." Anyway.
But Joe has done a lot. Joe even did the airplane thing, which was really, really cool. We did an episode on our old podcast about that, and that was just super cool to hear his experience and see he's done a ton of stuff with his Lightning. So I hope he has his Lightning back. I know there were some issues that were going on, so hopefully he's back up and running.
Yeah, we got to reach out to him for sure. I'd love to get an update. It's been too long.
So moving along on our apps, we covered a better route planner pretty well in detail last week. I'm glad to hear that you had success with it, Jace, last week. I think the other big one that we haven't talked about too much, we've mentioned it here and there, is PlugShare. And I'm bringing that up because 70,000 miles of cross-country towing. I mean, you can run 70,000 miles local and never use a better route planner, never use PlugShare, don't need them. I know guys with their Lightnings who have never fast charged. They just don't know. But
that's so true.
If you're going to travel, and good Jace, you probably have a little more knowledge of other apps, and we've talked about this outside, but for me, the best that I still have used is PlugShare. And PlugShare is basically just a interactive map of all the charging stations across the nation, maybe outside of the US, but a little bit in Canada. I haven't been to Europe or any of those, but it works so well because you get the last information when somebody creates a check-in there. So I will 100% of my trips start with a better route planner, let it tell me where it's going to stop, and then go directly to PlugShare and just quickly check those to say, okay, what's PlugShare telling me? And I'll share the screen here so we can actually see, kind of a spot about this. So here's one that I actually stopped at this weekend. This charger, and you can click it, and then you can roll down, and you can see. Shame on me, I didn't put a good review in here. I need to do that, but you can do this Kia. October 12, 2024, says, were you able to charge here? And yes, they did. And so I'll go ahead and do one while we're here. Just, you can say, okay, with my Lightning, I'm going to check in. I successfully charged there. So now it'll post that I successfully charged there on that date. So if anybody's looking at PlugShare, they can go back and see who is charged there. And that's a game changer.
It's also a really, really, really fun way to find new chargers. Like if you're bored at night and you don't have anything to do, turn on the coming soon only tab.
Right.
And you can see every charger anywhere that is coming soon.
So like if you zoom in, like here's one in let me see here. I put one of these in this Frontenac, Kansas, this J Hatfield one. This one here, it was not there. I actually created this one You can go in
so
and add a new charger, create a new one, and upload a picture, and it will show you, what you did. So there's been lots of people who've but I created this one because I saw it was coming. I was like, okay, I'm putting this one in. I did the same thing for one in Little Rock, Arkansas at the Ford dealer. I'm sorry, Conway, Arkansas, at the Ford dealer. I saw the chargers going in. I was like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and create this so people can at least start seeing it on there. They will show up as a wrench. Like, I don't know how well this is showing up, but like this one here is coming soon.
Coming soon.
Cherokee, Kansas. This is the new Kansas Nevi that they're working on, and these will go in. I don't think the Nevi's necessarily going to shut it down at this point, but there's one here. There's one here. There's at Casey's. There's another one at the Tom Days' Chevrolet. These are all chargers across Kansas where we are kind of deserts, right? We really struggle. That's why, Chris, I loved your video that explained don't charge past 80% on a road trip. That's not possible for me most of the time when I'm towing. So I have to know. And these new chargers coming in, let me know, hey, I'm going to have some options. So PlugShare is absolutely.
I think if you're looking for chargers, if you're like, you just don't know where to begin, and you're like, where could it, where's one around me? Where's the possibilities on this route? I think PlugShare is the best to use, just because it has the most updated information. I'll tell you, I have kind of a thing that I go through. I'll look, we do similar routes all the time. But when we went to West Virginia, that was a trip where, we hadn't taken that route before. So I looked on PlugShare, I found my stuff, but then I go through this routine where I'll find what I want on PlugShare, and then I'll actually go into whomever's app that owns that said charger. So if it's EVgo, I have their app. If it's EA, I have their app. And then I'll check once I'm, let's say, 10 to 15 minutes away from that charger, I will then check their app to see what the latest update is, because you'll find that PlugShare is not updated quite as quickly as that host app, just naturally. That's, of course, kind of how it works. It's just not quite as quick, and sometimes not accurate. It's usually pretty accurate if they have a good data connection. But
now you're talking about the live status, like not plug check-ins,
correct,
but the live status.
Correct. Right. And so that's why I say it's good to find on PlugShare, because you can kind of see, where they are. And like you said, the check-ins, is it working within the last week? But then when I want to know within the next, I'm going to be at that charger within 10 minutes, I then check the whosever app it is. And then just to make sure that what I see on PlugShare is accurate up to the minute, because you never know. It could be full. Like Tesla will even tell you, oh, it's full and there's a 25-minute wait. It may not be worth it for me, and PlugShare won't necessarily tell you that, but the Tesla app will. So it might not be worth it for me to go to that Tesla, station. If I have another option, I might not. But if I did, I might choose the other option instead of. So then I would go on EA's app and check, because I had that kind of happen this weekend where we had an EA, EVgo, and a Tesla. And I'm like, okay, what's closest to the highway? Okay, it's the Tesla one. But the Tesla one at the time, we were about 15 minutes out, said about 20-minute wait. So I'm like, okay, let me check the EVgo, see where that says. It's only about a mile or two further away. And then there was an EV or an EA, which was about, 5 minutes off the highway. So, it's using all these tools really can make a difference. It shouldn't be that hard, but it's where we are right now.
So this is, I was going to kind of bring this up too, because you actually can do the same thing in a better route planner. You can go in and see all these, like you can click on these, like I'll click on this one.
Mine just wasn't accurate. That was the only problem for me.
Yeah, they're not super, like this one shows 350. There's 4 plugs, but it's not, it says unknown. So it's not telling you exactly live. And I'm like you, Jace. I will go to the bigger charging stations apps and check directly and see because if you go to EA, it's going to show you exactly what chargers are in use live. They do a pretty good job. Not as good as Tesla, but pretty good. But I would tell you my experience here a couple weeks ago with Francis Energy, which is all over the Midwest.
Yeah.
It didn't even show us offline as well, except for PlugShare. And PlugShare was saying, hey, this is offline. And so we had to avoid it. I stopped just to create a check-in for the next guys. It was right on the highway, but it was telling us, you're good. Pull in here on Francis Energy's app. And PlugShare was saying no. It was actually reporting it through the app that it was down, and the check-ins were showing were down. So all these apps, the reason I'm bringing this up is all these apps are good.
They're tools.
I really wish that they could create a centralized charging and like either put it in Google, put it in the factory navigation. Tesla, that they own the network. That's why it's the best network, because they can instantly live tell you, like those chargers up in the Northwest that caught on fire, those are going to show down within minutes.
And they can predict time, which is crazy because, and they're doing that only based on Tesla vehicles. So we have to keep that in mind. That actually doesn't include non-Tesla EVs, which could be bad if you have a lot of non-Tesla EVs, especially because they take up 2 spots.
Their busy times that it shows when they're busy, that is based on all chargers, not just Tesla. So that's a little different. But yes,
that's true. As based on a timing. Yeah, they're kind of all combined.
But if you pull in and it says all 20 stations are full, that could be 20 Lightnings.
Well, 10.
It will.
Well, even 19.
Or that's true. I guess if they are next, that's true. If it's all Lightnings, good point. It could be, 19. That's true. Okay, yeah, good point. We got lucky. We charged next to a Mach-E, and we were able to. That was the only spot that we could use at the Ypsilanti, Michigan one. Luckily there was a Mach-E, and we were able to sneak in.
Well, I guess I'm the jerk. I'll pull around the grass on the backside. I did that in Alabama and pulled up behind. There was a Tesla that was broken down in a stall and the only charging stall left. And so I pulled up on the grass behind and just pulled it around. I had to go.
Yeah, I've parked in some creative, like on the backside of things or on the island. Like it was, it wasn't in the middle of a busy area, but outside of the parking stall area, I parked on the outside of it.
I'm sure the business owners just love that Tesla set this up in such a way that's causing us to pull on their grass. I try not to. I don't like doing it, but if it's the only charging station, I can't make it to another one, which I'm towing. I never can. I have to do that, and so Anyhow,
we got very lucky on our last stop. We on the Ohio Turnpike coming home. There were enough Teslas that there was only one station available, and it was the offset one at the end that some of those Tesla superchargers have for trailers. I guess you could use, but it really, the way they have it set up, it's not even a true pull through. So I went in, but it was perfect for me, right? Because I'm like, okay, I just don't have to pull in the spot all the way. I'll be able to get a charge at least. Plugged in. 2 times I tried it. It would not start. I've never had this happen before, actually, in this exact fashion. It registered everything. It was there, and it would just not start charging. It kept saying on the app in the truck, starting charging. It just never started. So I tried it twice, said, screw it. Luckily, there's an EA literally across the parking lot. It's like the only place in America that you got EA and superchargers in the same parking lot. And I was able to just hop over there. But had I not been able to do that, we would have been in for quite a wait. It would have been a little bit. So
here's another kind of what you're showing there. They're typical Tesla. They're all lined up here. And then over here on the far left of the screen, there's that one. They are doing a much better job of putting
the only difference with ours is it's offset, but it's facing towards you, if that makes sense. So it's where the light pole is, but facing.
Yeah. So it's usually like I don't know if you can see my cursor, but right in here. That's and those are good too, as long as you can get pulled in and it's usually on the good side of the truck. I'll find another one here that shows that, because there's one in the middle of Alabama, in Gwynn, Alabama, that's that way. It's that we use every time, and it has exactly that same setup.
Yeah, it was weird though. I could not get it started, and then I went into the Tesla app to try to report it, and it's odd. They don't have a designation for, they have vandalism to a stall, it's dirty, they have all these things, but they do not have a designation for a performance-related issue. And what they say is that their network will detect a performance-related issue, so they will not allow you to put one in. But that, at least as a non-Tesla driver, but that's unfortunate, because if the station shows that it's up but it won't start, you'll never have anybody be able to report it, because they don't know that it's down. If that makes sense. So that was kind of so I kind of tweeted to them and said, hey, if you could change that.
This is kind of what you're showing here. One these are all lined up, and then you got one off to the side, kind of horizontal.
The only issue with the Lightning is you kind of have to not pull in all the way to the spot, because.
Well, I tell you this, usually I park the truck. I've been in this one 4 times.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I guess you do that. Yeah.
And just kind of nose it up there, and then I'm not blocking anything else. I don't block. Now, I will say, one of the only chargers that's ever not worked for me was this post at this charger. And so I had to pull on up to the next one, which I wasn't blocking anything else. It worked out. But I do like these ones where they put them at a different spot.
This is
Chris,
3 or 4 times now for us in just the last 2 or 3 months where a Tesla supercharger has not worked, but each time it's been the end unit. I don't know if every single time it was, so with this one, it was that one, but with the other ones, it was just the ones on the very end, normal. They weren't, faced differently. And it just each time, I don't know, it's the end unit.
Now, human nature, Tesla's teaching you not to take the end unit, which is going to block more chargers.
Literally, yes, because I was like, oh, I didn't take that one the other day because it still showed down. I was like, oh, well, I know that one's down from our last trip. So, I mean, it's just, it's funny.
There's the same thing in Tulsa. There's 25 stations down in South Tulsa, and I've been to the end unit about 5 times, and I like it because I don't block anybody, and it's down. Now, that station's never busy enough. It's 25 or 30 stalls. I mean, there's usually not more than 5 or 6 Teslas.
We can't pay to get a 25 stall station anywhere around.
I know that's the only one close by to us. I there's a Tesla 8 is the minimum. I've never seen one under 8. Chris, have you ever seen one under 8 in California?
I have not. 8 is the smallest that I've seen.
We might have a V2 here that's 6, but we might. I'll have to take a picture of it.
Yeah.
It's out here, we'll get them, 80, 60, 80, 100.
Crazy.
Yeah, we have some really big.
We still have new EV Go stations that go in with 4. I mean, and they're only 2 dispensers. It's 4. It's crazy.
One of the big stops out here is Kettleman City, and Kettleman City is it's got one area that's got like 80 of them or something, and then on the other end of the freeway, same stop though, same Kettleman City, is another one, and that one is special because it's got a Tesla lounge.
I've seen this. Yeah, I've seen that one. It was like shut down for a little bit, right? And people were like, "What's going on?" And then exactly what you're talking about.
But you've got to have a code. You've got to have a code or something in order to get into it. So you have to like make a friend with a Tesla friend and be like, "Hey man, give me the code. I'm going to the lounge."
That's funny. That's awesome.
This is my first experience ever at a Tesla station. This is actually on PlugShare. If you want to see it, you can go to PlugShare. Go to the Fort Worth Lowe's. I pulled in, and this is after a long day. If you guys have watched any of my YouTube videos, a long day of Francis Energy not working twice, and then we get to an EA and you have to unhook. You pull in, there's an install. This one's actually, you don't see it in this picture, but it's cranked sideways. But I pull in and there's like all these stations. I saw 160 for 10 minutes and then 130 till the end. I mean, it was just like, and in a Lowe's parking lot during the day, man, that would have been perfect because I would have spent some money in there. But this was like midnight. But yeah, these Tesla
stations, new Ego mower.
Well, yeah, something. That's upcoming. We'll talk about that.
I just got ours out for the first time the other day. I filled up the tires and made sure she's ready to go for winter. I turned the blades on for the first time. I can't believe how quiet EV mowers.
I got to talk to you more.
Sound like a giant fan.
My big deer, my 35 horse deer is for sale, and it's getting close to selling, and I've got to do something else. And I want the new Deere 370R, but it's an $8,000. And I'm thinking, I want to know how long that thing will go. You've got, because there's some Egos down here without battery for $1,500.
I've seen it's still on sale for, you could get the one at Lowe's still for $19.99 with the batteries, with 410s. It's
I have 2.5 acres. I've got to make sure. So I wish the batteries were.
Well, it's 2 acres. I think they rate it 2 acres with the 4. So if you had 6 10s, you're easy at 2.5, 3.
Yeah.
Acres,
I wonder if the voltage was right. I was looking at this. What volts does that Ego run? I know we didn't talk about this tonight.
56. Don't they run 56?
Okay, so
yeah.
A Tesla module is 22.8, 25 max. So 2 Tesla modules would be 10 kilowatts. So
you put a Tesla module on that thing.
30 mile an hour mowing the lawn, 50 mile an hour.
Well,
I mow it in 5 minutes.
It's just
0 to 60 on this thing's awesome.
Not changing any of that. It's just 50 volts. But yeah,
I will tell you, the Ego is quick, man. You can do a wheelie. Yeah, you can literally. I'm in the garage. I hit it full thing, and it picked up. Justin's like, "What the hell?"
So I wonder top speed, because it says 7 or 8. My Deere runs 12 miles an hour. You can't mow as fast as it will go. It cruises, but it's the big.
I assume that's because it wants you to be able to drive to another yard or something. When it, like, if you're out there in the middle
of a commercial mower, you know how those commercial mowers are.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm wondering how, you can't mow that fast, so I don't really need it to be that fast. But
I mean, out here in our area, it's got to be like this out in Kansas too, Martin. Like out here in our Central Valley, where the farms are, it's not uncommon to see a tractor or something just driving down the street. And
there's a country song, that I'm a big fan of. It said, if I'm going to get in a traffic jam, it better be a tractor, man. I mean, that's what we have here. So this is that mower. This thing runs 12 miles an hour. It is fantastic. It's just a $12,000 mower. And I'm mowing 2 acres here. It's obviously Lightning and the Tesla in the background, but I want this to be electric. I really do.
Yeah, I'll tell you, we're going to keep our Skag for now. We're going to do the first few mows, see how it goes. We want to test. We got such a good deal. It was almost like we had to buy it because our parts were just in it. We're like, okay, this is the deal we were looking for. Let's just buy it. Even if we sell the batteries, we'll make our money back. Like we can figure this out if worse comes to worse if we don't like it. But
Jace, did you have a push mower Ego before or no?
No, we have not had an Ego electric mower, period. We just had the Skag, which is pretty intense. We have the Liberty, which is a residential grade of the commercial brand. So it's a nice mower, but it was, $5,500 as well. I wish we would have gotten the deal that we got back then, because now it's like, geez.
This is the one
blades?
Really.
So
this is the one I'm really on right now. So I don't. Chris, you have you have electric mower, right?
I have the electric mower, the push mower. I don't. My yard is
So this is a 54. That's a 54. Our Skag is a 48, and then I will say the Ego is a 42. So it's on the smaller side than what I think honestly we'd prefer. Like if I could have chosen, we probably would have gone for the 52 Ego. But it just it wasn't on.
This is up to 3.5 acres per charge, and it's 6.5 kilowatts. That's what's driving me to this. But what's keeping me away is I basically have the same money.
But that's not replaceable, right? So if they die, you got to charge it, right?
Yeah, they are LG battery, and it's the same tech that's in a lot of it's a really good battery. I mean,
I'm not worried about the batteries going bad, but the nice part about the Ego is we have so many batteries that, like, let's say I die with my 410s, I've got 2 other 7.5s plus a few 5s plus a couple 4s plus 2. I mean, I could literally just drop in what if I die real quick. We just almost finished the lawn, right? I can just drop in a couple.
You got a lot of other Ego stuff. I've got Milwaukee's like 25 batteries, so I want to be able to just click those all in, have a bunch of them in series, and then some in parallel, so I can. And it crossed my mind. I don't know. With the Milwaukee's, they're going to handle that kind of discharge rate. The Egos are the batteries are more designed for it. They're more of a deep cell.
Yeah, and the cool part about the mower is you've got the 6 slots. They include with the Z6 a charger, and so those slots all turn into battery charger slots for any of your batteries, your 2.5s, your 5s, your 4s, doesn't matter. You throw any of them in there and it'll charge them. So kind of cool that you get a built-in charger as well.
Yeah, before I had
it was a good deal.
I was using the Ego battery bank, the portable power station.
Yeah.
And you could throw 4 in there, and that was portable.
Oh, that's
power.
right. Yep.
And then I use that for charging. It's a slower charger.
The Nexus,
that's fine.
or whatever they call that station.
Yep. And then now that I've got the Lightning, that's like something I can give to neighbors or like my sister-in-law who lives in an apartment. If there's an outage, I can bring that over and I can charge the batteries. And then
we have the 400 watt inverter from them or whatever. I think it's 400 watts, it's the handy. Tinier version. But I've run before we did the transfer switch. Yeah, I ran the internet for a while on it, and the fridge a couple times when we were getting the kitchen redone actually. And it was nice too, because if they were just in the kitchen working and needed to unplug the fridge, I didn't want to do the whole transfer switch thing because I didn't need to lose power to the whole house, just the kitchen. So I just took just the little inverter, plugged the fridge in, and boom. I mean, it was good. It would go forever on the 10.
Yeah, shout out Ego. Please feel free to.
We should do an episode on channel. Ego and just in general.
I do want to do that. I know we brought up some mower stuff tonight. I want to do that because I know I've been doing a lot of research on these. Ego's one of them. Still makes a mower that you can do 20-some acres. It's like 7-hour runtime. Yeah, it's $28,000. It's a commercial mower.
Oh my.
Commercial mower.
How heavy is it?
Not terrible, not any more than my deer. My big deer. But I think it's going to have its place where you're trying to run in town and you need to be more quiet, or if you're running of a morning or of an evening.
Yeah.
There's certain places where they have noise ordinances and you can't do that. But I do think we need to have a whole episode just on electric mowers, EV rated. I don't have a lot of experience with them, so
yard equipment in general, man. I mean, dude, I've got a
The
trimmer,
blower,
I've got an edger, I've got the blower.
I'll tell you that's what shocked me, I think, the most was that was the first time I had turned the blades on yesterday or day before, whenever it was. I can't believe how quiet it is.
What are the blades?
Quiet.
Is it a dual? So like my push mower has 2 blades under it. Does it have a dual blade, a single blade?
Should be probably 3 blades that are each individual. They're
question.
Not,
I don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't looked
think
underneath.
they'll have. I've been underneath.
I think
of those.
it's 2 for some reason. Because when I've seen the kids to buy them, it's 2 from what
It might be 2 21-inch blades on those. My mower's triple. If they get into the 54s, there's a little shorter blade, and they do 3.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's on our Skag either, but probably. I'm guessing it's more than 2.
I'll say that on the push mower, at least, the original Ego mowers were only a single blade, and then they came out with a dual blade, and so I upgraded to that one. And then the interesting thing was I've always been I've been a mulcher. I didn't really bag it.
Oh yeah.
And so they made a special mulching blade. Put the mulching blade on there, and it didn't. It would leave some stragglers. Like
the
along
mohawk
the way.
or whatever they call it.
It would,
well,
yeah.
You're using energy to cut up the grass the second time, and that gets in the way of cutting it the first time. I've never been a mulching fan for that reason, but for us, I need the horsepower. For me cutting my 2.5 acres, I might mow twice a month. And in Kansas, then that can get really deep and really bad. And so I'm concerned that any of these electric mowers are not going to have the oomph to push.
We have a couple spots where we get we have a low side where the grass just, we're the same. It's going to be interesting. There's been a few spots where the Skag even has, it's labored. You can feel it, hear it. You can tell it's labored. So I've never had, we've never stopped. We have had that. I've seen the neighbors a few times with their tinier mowers and just die. We have not yet, but it's definitely labored. So it's going to be interesting. And I think too, we'll have 4 10s plus. I think I may have I might have a 5th 10. So we'll have 5 10s in there.
You can buy, I just looked it up. You can buy a 9 amp hour Ego for $68 through Temu.
Yeah, I've seen so many people buy those ones, and they're like, "It only lasted 30 minutes at the 10 amp hour," and I'm like, "Well, how much did you buy it for?"
Is it all black? It's all black. It doesn't.
It looks kind of like an Ego battery, but it's $68. I was like, "Cool."
The nice part about the 10s is they come with a 5-year warranty.
Yeah.
So 10 and up comes with 5-year warranty, which can
you go more than 10?
10 years?
10.
Amp hours. I think it goes to 12, but technically they have bigger ones than that too, but they don't fit in the.
That's what I would say. The 12s at Ace are $600 a piece. So that's what I was wondering.
Yeah, and see, for me, I can't really warranty mine because I almost always give them off Facebook. I go to Facebook Marketplace to somebody who,
but there's some good deals on there.
Dude, I got a screaming deal on my equipment because what happened was this young kid had his dad owns a landscaping company down in Salinas. It's kind of in the farm country south of San Jose. And I see it on Facebook and I was like, that can't be right. That price can't be right. And I message him and I'm super suspicious. I don't remember what the price was. I remember it was like $200 or something ridiculous, for this. It was like the brand new dual blade mower and the trimmer and the edger or something, all for $200 with batteries. And I'm like,
did you touch it when you got there? Was it hot?
No, so what it was is this kid got in trouble because what he did was he wanted to go battery. He bought all these things and his dad lost his mind. Has all gas powered. And I go up. It's a landscaping place. He's got the trucks, the whole thing, the whole yard. And he comes out. He's just like, my dad just told me to get rid of these things. He didn't want to see them. And it's all right, man. Well, I'll take them off your hand. I felt bad. I wanted to give him more. And I got a screaming deal on my stuff, but I can't register it and stuff, but it's been okay. Right. I've only had one battery die on me. And that was one of my smaller ones that I had, but yeah, it's I love those things, man. And then I'm curious to see, gotta get some video. Let's make a video of it. Let's post it. Let's talk about it.
Dude, it's cool. It's got phone controls. You can control with an app like this. It's got suspension. You can on the seat, you can make it firmer or softer by just turning the thing. It's got full decked out LEDs, some that are daytime running lights, not kidding you. It's got DRLs, and then it's got additional lights for the side that you can turn on. It's got a
That's
rear
cool.
beeper and like the
Well, it
reverse
should have,
leg
like,
flashes. It's so cool.
I think most of those mowers have like an eco mode and then a full on mode, so you can make the
Yeah,
blade
it's
speed a little
3
lower.
actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's got eco. I think they call it control, which is really nice because when you're trying to, put it in like a little spot in the garage, it turns it way down. It's almost like a crawl mode, and you can literally just get it exactly where you want it. And I think the middle one's like normal, and then they have sport mode. I mean, you turn that onto sport mode, I can't believe it's like it goes maybe like half as fast as the mini bike goes. I'm like, I was rolling around in the yard and I'm just flying. It's at least 12 to 15 miles an hour. At least.
wow, yeah, we'll have to check that out. I want to see a report back on that.
I will. Yeah, no, it'll be fun. I can't wait. We have snow on the ground right now, but
Yeah,
we had like 2 60-degree days.
Front of it.
Yeah, or a plow. I know. Yeah, people have talked. Like people have said a plow or a plow in the back. Either like some.
That would be cool.
I have an
They
engineer.
had a couple people try.
There's an engineer I work with that has a Hustler, and he put a plow on the front of his, and has just been going at it with the snow.
I'll tell you though, I was going to bring this up. The Ego snowblower. It's a game changer. It was awesome this winter. This was our first winter with it, and we needed it this winter. And we had like an old Craftsman, gas thing. It was ginormous and huge, and it was bad.
Tom has talked about his quite a bit on his channel. Is his an Ego? Do you recall? I know he has.
Yeah, it is.
Tom Malogny.
Yeah. Yep. His is an Ego.
It's amazing. Yeah. We have the 2-stage 24-inch, I think it is, and the only option it didn't have on it was the heated handles, which you're like that's like a little. We're not going to pay $300 for heated handles. Sorry.
Aren't you? I would figure you'd be wearing gloves anyway. And
exactly. That's what our thought process. We were like, we'll be wearing, and I'm glad we didn't because the heated handles one is even bigger, larger. It's huge.
If you're running a snowblower a lot and you have heated handles, it's like a heated grips on a bike, or even I'll go as far to say the heated steering wheel on the Lightning. I didn't think that was something I needed, and now I don't like it without it.
Yeah, I get it.
So,
but the snowblower has been awesome. It's the torque and just like it's been great. It shoots the snow, I think 50 feet, something like that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it would get old, but every time I see you guys in the snow, Ben Wesby had a video he did on X not too long ago, just earlier today, of him.
He just tagged it.
It was like, oh my god, dude, that looks so awesome. And I'm sure it would get old, but being in California, where I just don't see any of that stuff. And I want an excuse to go buy a snowblower. I want to go.
We love it. I'm not gonna lie, we love snow. We love it. I mean, it's a pain in the butt, and it does get old after month 3 or 4. But I don't know. I mean, and the lightning's so fun.
I always remember that Simpsons episode where Homer gets in and becomes the plow king and starts going through the. Dude, I want to throw a plow on my Lightning and start going through the neighborhood plowing.
Until you bring the salt in and then you crack everything inside, and it's just. I'm not dogging on snow, but I sound like I am because it makes everything an absolute mess. My interior,
everything's harder too, just in general. Yeah.
This is the dumb question. Does aluminum rust?
No, but it corrodes. You won't get rust in the panels, but you'll get corrosion can build up, but it's not going to do what steel does. The Ford 2015 F-150 went to aluminum, and that was a game changer for the guys up north. Now you get too far north, they don't have the salt like they do in certain parts of the country. So they just get snow. They don't treat. Now, if it's icy area, some of that area is just going to be total salt. You can get.
So in Houghton Lake, they don't plow like where we go up north. They don't plow the roads. They specifically don't plow them because they want snowmobiles to drive on them. And you want to drive on them with snowmobiles. So they will literally leave the roads as they are. It sounds crazy, but that you need a vehicle that can get through sometimes a foot or 2 feet of snow.
But you don't have to worry about rust if it's not salted. I mean, the snow itself is no different than the water, right? The rain. It won't hurt the truck, but it's all the stuff that they put on the roads. That sodium based. Yeah, that's terrible for steel vehicles.
Right behind our warehouse, the FedEx warehouse that we have is the Cargill salt mines. What they do is they call it a mine, but it's not a mine like you would think of. It's they're actually salt pools. And what they do is they bring in the bay water that's salty, and they put them in evaporation pools,
just
and then
dry them.
They dry them out and they mine it. There's giant, huge mountains of salt.
Look up the Lake Erie salt mines if you want to see something really cool. It's like right under downtown Cleveland.
It's crazy.
It's funny
to
we
see how
have that. You guys,
is.
What is that with salt? Because we have it up here in Wichita, north of us. There's a big salt mine, like underground salt mine, not far from. Shout out to the MacArthur guys in Salina, along MacArthur. They're in Salina.
Everybody needs salt.
It's a huge, and they actually mine it for table salt. I mean, it gets turned into
I don't know if this stuff is construction or road or I don't think it's table salt. Although Cargill makes, I think.
Guys, I'm sure our listeners are going, "What the hell are they talking about?"
Yeah, what the hell are we talking about?
EV channel.
Well, the thought of it was when I was what happens to us, our air conditioner, the coils get all rusted out from just the air coming through off the bay and that salt.
Oh yeah,
as it's evaporating and everything. And so the other day I was watching, I was doing a video. I had a new air conditioner that we had to put in, a big commercial air conditioner that I was moving. I had the new tonneau cover, and so it had room. I wanted to see if it would fit. And so I've got this video and this picture of the big air conditioner crate in the back of my Lightning. And as I was checking,
I saw that. Okay, yeah,
and it was really cool to just see that it did fit and everything. But as I was doing that, I was watching some of the trucks that were going back and forth on the salt pools. They were completely rusted out. Like they were like all underside, just because they're around that salt all the time going. There's kind of these berms that are these between all the pools of salt water that they're evaporating. So they're driving the trucks and all this equipment, and the whole underside, the backside, the whole thing was rusted out. And I started thinking, and none of them were Fords. They were all, Dodge or something else. And I'm like, dude, why don't they? It made me think of that when you talked about it. I said, hey, if they were all Fords, would they not have rusted? Would they have been aluminum and been fine?
They're going to
frame probably, but not the body panels.
Yeah, now Teslas are all aluminum, so you won't get that with a Tesla. Now there's some A-arms and stuff like that, but it's
Rivian as well, except for I believe the doors are steel, but everything else is aluminum, I think, or it might be the opposite one.
Jim talking about the evaporated salt is used for water softeners. That makes a lot of sense. Now that I'm thinking about the Cargill folks and what I bet that's exactly what it was. Yeah, great call,
interesting.
Jim.
Yeah, I don't know what they use the Lake Erie salt for, but it's fascinating. You can see the videos there. It's literally I think it's 2 miles or 1 mile off the shores of Lake Erie, right below downtown Cleveland. Like right there is a massive, massive salt mine. It's crazy.
Yep. It's fun fact for talking about rusting. Ford's had aluminum on their hoods since 1997.
Interesting. Wow.
So do you get the whole body
stamped aluminum since 97 then? Wow.
On the hood.
Yeah. The only thing that survived.
The only thing will be, the rest of the rust off that hood's going to be sitting there. It might be full of dents because it's not real strong, but no, I can't believe that the big OEMs haven't went that way yet. Ford is. I
remember talking to Bill Ford about it. That's seriously, I'm not kidding you. And he was mentioning at the Lightning launch, how, moving to aluminum was such a big decision, and it struck all the other automakers by surprise, and no one still to this day has matched Ford's capability with aluminum stamping. Not one company.
And I'll tell you, you see a lot of bad press about the Lightning, especially Chevy doing that drop in the bed with the tool, and it can at certain angles. But working with aluminum as much as I have in the body shop now, we replaced Joe's cab because it is almost impossible to straighten aluminum back. It's not pliable like steel.
Yep.
Steel, you can grab a hold and
memory.
pull that steel back out. Aluminum just tears. You can heat it up, but again, when you heat up steel with a torch, it turns red. When you heat up aluminum with a torch, nothing happens. It just eventually will just fall out on you.
Now, being that it's aluminum, can you get money for the cab you don't use? Can you recycle the whole cab because it's aluminum? Or
it's still, I will. It's worth more money. I will here eventually, but I got all the extra parts. That's what I'm trying to build that XLT out of right now. All these extra parts I have, but want to now. It's definitely repairable. When you guys see Joe's video come out, I'm working on the finale video right now. Like putting panels back on, they are riveted and panel bond adhesive, a glue. So there's not really, you can weld, but not many shops are doing that now. Most everybody's using rivets and panel bond. That's kind of how Ford, a lot of self-piercing rivets and they do have some hard actual weld. You can weld aluminum just like you weld steel, different process. But so that's different. But I just wanted to bring that up that none of the other OEMs have went that route yet. Chevy, Dodge, I think Honda, and I believe Toyota is all still a steel-bodied truck.
Yeah, when I was living in Chicago way back in the 90s, I can remember one of the first things that struck me is seeing some cars and trucks that literally had 2x4s as bumpers. Like they had rusted out the back of them, and they shoved these big 2x4s on the back of them. And it's definitely different out here in California. Ken mentioning the Lake Erie salt.
Very cool.
Running under the Detroit River in Windsor. That whole Detroit area is interesting. I had never been out there before until the trip we took Jace for the car show and for the F-150 reveal and all that. And what was the Mustang? That badass Mustang that got released that weekend. What was that?
Was it the GTD, right?
GTD. It was the GTD.
That was such a cool event, Mustang night. That was really cool.
That's a crazy place there with all the lakes, and like there was one thing where if you turned right, you ended up in Canada or something. It was a strange place. Like, here I can drive 500 miles in any direction and I'm still in California. It's like, I mean, I guess if I go east, I end up in Nevada before 500 miles, I think. But yeah, any other direction, I'm still in California.
Yep. Speaking of driving 500 miles, that's a good segue. Chris, I know you got a trip coming up. Based on tonight's comments, do you have any other, we kind of topicked out with apps tonight. Do you have any other apps that you plan to use?
I will say I would be remiss to not say Ford Pass app. We need to just mention check out the Ford Pass app. I know it doesn't have a route planner in anymore, but they do have pretty accurate information as far as what's like available.
If you don't, for the guys, everybody listening, if you don't want to go to mess with a better route planner and sign up for that, you don't want to use PlugShare, use the Ford Pass app, and almost all the chargers that are in PlugShare will be in the Ford Pass app. For sure, the ones that are active. You may not have those up.
And if you're at a charger and you really want to get crazy, use the public charging app, and you can use that as well. It's basically very similar to what you'd be using in the app. You can use them both to activate and do whatever you want. But that's a fun one to try too. If you just want to use it on your truck screen, you can.
When you can navigate to chargers from there. That's how I at first was navigating to a Tesla charger. You would go to and again, that may be what Everything Outdoors and Jeeps was talking about earlier, because in the native navigation, they're not there, but they are used to be public charging or what it used to be called Charge Assist. You can click on Tesla chargers and hit the little navigation button, and it will navigate you to the charger. Now, it's not preconditioning. Unless it's cold, it doesn't matter anyway, but it'll pop up and say charging station added or something like that, from I remember right.
Yeah, can I answer your question? It depends on what you want to use the OBD for. I had a little bit of problems with my older VP with ARBP Premium. They have said now, I think basically you need to have a plus model is all that they're requiring. So I think if I would have bought the VP Plus, I would have been good, or what. I don't know. It was for whatever reason, mine didn't work, but I believe Justin's does. So whatever, I don't even think the one that I went back into my Amazon purchases, the one that I bought isn't even available anymore. So anything I think that you buy now, you should be good with. There is technically there's a website that gives you, I think there's 4 or 5 options right from ARBP, and they tell you what their sponsored ones are. The best of the best is, from what I've read, the OBD Link CX. And this one's
the new one.
Half the
this
price.
is what I have. I have 2 of these, and for the price, $30, you can get them on sale a little cheaper. I have 2 of these. I've had one of them 2 years. I've had one of them about a year. These absolutely work with a better route planner with Car Scanner. So if you want something cheap and you're not worried about security,
it's just that's the other piece. Yeah, if you're a security nut, you may feel differently, but it really depends on your comfort level. I wanted to try the CX because I have the other OBD link, so I was like, I'll just try it. Screw it. But if you're worried about security, you might want to go a different route. But if you're, and I wouldn't even say worried about security, right? You would have to. You got to have somebody sitting there, trying to get at you. So. Yeah, you have just as much of possibility as somebody walking by with the RFID and stealing your credit cards. It's not something that's actively happening often.
So somebody would have to be targeting you for that to occur.
Correct. Yeah, this is the other one. So that's a little more expensive.
This is one, $80, but it has that security built in, and it does work, and it works well.
Yep.
I'm not worried about security on OBD2. What are they going to do? Look at my data? I mean, for me, for the
Yeah,
truck, I guess if you're really good, you could take over a few things, maybe even shut the truck down. But you have to be really good at that. But the OBD link makes really good stuff. The CX works good with certain apps, like Ken's saying there with Bimmer Code. It does work well with that. I have their wired one that I use when I'm doing 4scan edits.
I'm not familiar with Bimmer. What is Bimmer Code?
Yeah, it's hard to put that in layman's terms.
I've messed you up. He's like, you're too stupid, Chris. I can't explain it to
you. Well, how about we get into that on another episode?
Another episode, we can talk about that.
But anyway, no, for 4scan, you can run OBD Link Bluetooth or VPeak Bluetooth, but I wouldn't recommend it because if it breaks the link during the download or upload, you can brick a module, and we don't want to have to go through that. I just run the wired one, and they're not $49 for the wired version. You can actually run the wired version if you have the adapter into a phone, but it's cumbersome, and who wants to do that when we have Bluetooth?
Yeah. But yeah, that one does work well for me. So really up to you. What's your security level? There's others too. There's, like I said, there's many that you can choose from, and a lot of them have different security levels and blah blah blah. I think technically speaking, OBDCX is the only one that the company says is okay to leave in all the time, that they're comfortable enough with their legality, so to speak, to say you can leave it in all the time. And it's something about it changes its protocol every 15 minutes or something. So it switches up on every connection or every 15 minutes so that nobody can really, they're still not like, you could still be hacked, I think, if somebody was really after you. Yeah. So don't think it as foolproof, but if you're worried about security, maybe go that direction. If you're not, the VPeak, is probably the way to go. If you want just a cheap option, that will work. So,
yep.
Yeah,
there
you
go. Yeah, it's just like 4scan. So same.
Ken put it pretty well in that Bimmer Code. I mean, that's the bottom line. The BMWs use it. You can program certain things through that app. And
I'll say I love the i3, man. Like when I would 100% like get like my daughter will be the first to drive. I'd love to see my daughter in an i3. I mean, it's perfect for like a high school kid or someone just driving along.
A guy down the road that has one. They love it.
Still,
they're good cars. I mean, but the insurance, that's going to be the problem. And I speaking of that,
high insurance vehicle?
Well, BMW in general, it's considered a luxury vehicle. And so like Tesla's that way too. I'm trying to put my daughter, you guys, we bought 3 Teslas. The first one's finished. I think it's going to Texas to my brother-in-law, but the second one, I'm trying to put my daughter in it. We have a Ford Focus here, like a 2015 that I was going to put her in, but the Tesla, to me, first of all, how cool would it be to say your daughter was in an EV, Tesla, whatever? I'd love to have a Mach-E, but those are still too expensive. But I can put her in one of these Teslas. I got like $3,500 in, and I'm thinking that would be good. And you can, to me, if you put a kid or a new EV owner in a EV today with today's tech, and they have no idea, never been in one, I still believe that the Tesla is the easiest to just jump in and road trip. Like, I put my daughter, my 18-year-old, in one, in a Model 3, because if she's going to take off to Reno, Nevada, which she has done, I'm not worried about it. It tells her where to go. It's going to be accurate. There's no apps to deal with. All this, what we've talked about tonight, is the good things that they've done. Now, with that said, I love Tesla, but I don't love the car. It's not comfortable, which is interesting. It's not uncomfortable, but maybe I'm spoiled with that Lightning. It's just such a good
yeah. I mean, when I did my Model Y refresh video and everybody was raving about, it's so quiet, it's so comfortable, the suspension's so soft, right, and everything. And I went and I did it, and it was better than the Y. A buddy of mine that I work with, he has the Y, and so I've been in it multiple times. But the new one is much better than the old for sure. But it was funny. The John from Tesla Owners Club Silicon Valley, he's really big on X, and I made the comment that it's still, in the video, I was like, it's still not as quiet or as soft as the Lightning. And he was like, what are you talking about? Little, dead skull. I'm like, nah, dude, I'm telling you, it is, the Lightning is just
the NVH tuning that they did is second to none in anything I've ever been in. And I've been in a lot of cars.
The i7,
maybe like the Lucid or something.
No, it's quieter than the Lucid. Yeah, I've been in the Lucid a lot. The Lucid is a loud car. Oddly.
Is it really?
I've heard.
It's
and
the
squeaky.
And a lot of it's the motor too. The motor is very pronounced. In the The BMW i7 is the quietest, I think, that's out there. But of all the other cars, like Model X, Model S, Lucid, Rivian, it's both the motors are louder and the compressor you can hear kick on. The Silverado gets a lot of air noise, especially if it's got that mid-gate in the back. It's pretty noisy. Cybertruck is not bad, but it's still noisier. It's probably just as soft as the Lightning, but that's got air suspension, and the Lightning's doing it on those independent rear suspension. Yeah, it's impressive. The Lightning's an impressive, man. It's a great truck. What they've done,
I would say not as quiet as the Lightning, but it's close.
Mach-E's close. Little wind noise, a little bit more wind noise I've noticed from when I drove or when we owned our Mach-E. But yeah, I mean, but again, it's a comfortability. Like you add that with the quietness and like the room that you have, like.
And if you guys had a chance to, if you get into a Mach-E rally, it's got that GT Magna Ride, but it also has the thicker tire walls, and the combination of that Magna Ride suspension with the thicker walls and the higher ride. It's a little bit higher.
I'll have to try that because we have a GT Performance Edition with Magna Ride here now, but it's got the 19-inch wheels and they're kind of low profile tires, not as bad as the 21s on this T85 Tesla. The Tesla is, I'm not kidding you, an inch and a quarter sidewall. That car's going to ride.
That's part of the reason. Part of the reason I think Tesla's had such bad ride on top of it too is that they have such low profile sidewalls. I mean, it's just so tiny. There's nothing in their XL, load.
But I will say, our other car, the regular 85 is on 19s, got normal tires, and it's on air, and that is a really smooth riding car. It's just loud. That's the seats aren't comfortable. When I say loud, it's a 2014. So those early gen Teslas, I gotta say, if you get in anything 2014 and then compare it to a 2014 Model S, there's no comparison. Besides a BMW or something that's, luxury, I'm saying like a Ford Fusion or a Chevy Malibu or anything that, now would be a comparable price car. Because a 2014 Fusion with 80,000 miles is bringing about the same as a Model S with 150,000 miles. I mean, they're about worth the same money. So when you're looking at a daily commuter, it's hard not to consider something that, especially like I sold this Model S with free supercharging to my brother-in-law, and that's the reason he bought it, because his boy's going to drive back and forth from Dripping Springs to Austin, Texas, 40 miles one way. He can pull in and supercharge every day.
Yep. Now, with the you've had so many Lightnings and gas F-150s. I'm curious your thoughts, and I just, because I don't use trucks as trucks, I'm definitely a pavement princess dude. Part of the big appeal of the Lightning is that independent rear suspension. Is there any reason that a real truck driver that they wouldn't switch to independent rear suspension on all the F-150s?
I tweeted about this today. Did you see my tweet? I'm like, I literally tweeted this exact same thing today. I would like to see the independent rear suspension come to the gas F-150. Again, I don't know if they're the higher trims specifically is what I said, because I think that's where it should come. I don't know if there's a packaging issue, if there's not space. I really don't. I would be very curious.
With the gas tank or with towing or load management or the
maybe like the 36-gallon tank. Could they? I don't know.
Yeah, think about it from a cost standpoint. Being an engineer, the F-150 frame is universal on the Cruise on every model except the Lightning. So the Lightning's different. So they're like, well, we got to make the frame different to accommodate the batteries. We can change the mounting positions in the back to accommodate that mid motor. The Mustang in 2003 to 2004, the Cobra had an independent rear suspension. Those actually are not good performance cars for traction. Yeah. The solid rear axle was actually better in those the rear end of those cars for traction, but that was not electric. So when you talk about the Lightning, I've towed a bunch with all of them. The Lightning squats, the way that they've done that suspension, the angle of the rear strut, the size and location of the camber. It does have a little bit of negative camber, which I don't like, but it doesn't squat.
Most EVs seem to. I don't know really any that don't.
I think it has to do with handling. And of course, you're bouncing up and down so that you don't see it when you're driving, but they level out when you get weight in it and you're bouncing.
Yeah.
The Lightning squats less than a 3/4 ton. And I'm only saying that because I've owned a bunch of them. You put the same weight. I have a Bobcat, and you put the same weight. The Lightning might move an inch and a quarter down. It's not much.
When I put that big old crate in the back of it, nothing.
Squat. Yeah, no, nothing.
It didn't do a thing to it.
It's the best towing truck I have ever been in. And I have owned 450s to 150s and Dodges, Fords, all of them. The only thing that the Lightning doesn't do better on, besides the range, let's not even talk about that. Is over 10,000 pounds. If you get a 20,000 pound gooseneck full of cattle, you're not going to do that with a Lightning. But that 10,000 pound rated tow and under, I've never been anything that tows like this. Acceleration, the weight, the squatting, all that.
I'm using a work truck, a XL work truck, single cab, 8-foot bed. Thanks for the correction, Jace, on the 8-foot bed. I don't know where my head was when I called it a 6.
That's right.
It's
happens.
So I'm driving that thing and I'm just like, this has got to be, after being in the Lightning, I'm like, this is a horrible truck.
I know.
And I'm thinking it might be a combination of, obviously it's got the solid rear axle, but also that 8-foot bed, and it doesn't have the super cab. So all that weight, it already is front loaded in F-150 anyway. But now you've got a full empty 8-foot bed, and you don't have the super cab, and there's not the low center of gravity with the battery.
And it's aluminum.
So the back end of that truck, man, every bump, every shimmy, every railroad track that I go over, and there's a bunch of them in my
area. Long. It's so long. So you're
but it's not any longer, right? It's not any.
The bed itself is longer because you just don't have the cab. So it's just a more empty, vacant.
And I've seen, I've seen a lot of other. It's funny how you only see things once you drive one. I've never, because I remember thinking like, man, do people still buy this spec of truck? And now that I'm in one this week, I'm looking around. I see a bunch of tradespeople with them, but they're throwing like the ladder racks. So at that point, you got this big metal rack with ladders on top. It's weighing.
That's what we have Dodges, but we have the same 8-foot bed for our roofing fleet. Is all Dodge Rams, single cab.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. 8-foot bed with the rack, the whole thing.
Does that rack help with that extra weight to help balance it out and help give it a better ride? And just when it's an empty,
and it's loaded up with ladders and shingles and
air compressors.
So it made me think, man, throw independent rear suspension on this thing, but that would be a cost issue. You're saying like it would make it so you couldn't.
You got to keep in mind too.
I think more R&D costs really to what Martin's saying, even than just actual per unit cost,
Well, you wouldn't want to have two different frames. You wouldn't want to have a high spec that's going to make it go up when the regular gas F-150s are building by the millions, and the solid rear axle, they can buy those.
And they might not be able to build it with a different frame in that, at Rouge or Kansas City, wherever they decided.
Keep in mind too, talking about ride and trying to make it ride better. The gas F-150 that you drove probably weighed 4,500 pounds, maybe 5.
I'll have to look at the
7. So that weight helps smooth that out. You take a 1-ton dually. We had a bunch of them when I had my prior business, and you put 2 of our hydraulic tree shears that we built on the flatbed and drove. That was the smoothest riding truck besides the Lightning that I've ever been in. But you take that off, and your teeth are rattling, across.
And all the NVH underneath, you got that huge pack sitting under there instead of a bunch of empty space, and lower center of gravity. I mean, you just add it all up, and you understand why it rides the way it is. I mean, like I've said so many times, we almost didn't get rid of our power boost because we loved it so much. We were towing our boat, we were doing stuff. It got 650 miles. It had pro power. We're like, this is amazing. And then Ford invited us to drive the Lightning, and we went up and I took that thing on that test track, and we floored it, and it was over. It was over. Justin and I both drove it. He's like, we're buying that Lightning. And I'm like, okay,
buying 2 Lightnings. That's
And that we did not see coming.
Yeah. Did you grow up like as a hot rodder or car guy, want to go fast doing that stuff or not?
I grew up racing sprint cars and go-karts. So
you got to. How did we leave this out, by the way, Jace? Then when we talked about things that were happening this week. So Jace, I was like, you know what? I knew that because on Instagram, Jace was introduced as one of the friends of Ford.
I forgot about it. It kind of happened a while ago. So we can talk about it really kind of quick. It happened last year. I became kind of involved with Friends of Ford. I've obviously done many things with Ford, but not really necessarily Friends of Ford. It's kind of a separate organization. But they were really kind of making a push, and they really wanted somebody in the EV scene to kind of be like their Ford EV deputy. So I honestly didn't even know what was coming to me, if I can be honest. They just sent me an invitation last year and said, hey, we'd like you to come to the Charlotte Roval race, NASCAR race, which I hadn't been to a NASCAR race in about 15, 20 years. It's been a long time. So me as a lifelong NASCAR, F1, everything racing fan, I was like, I cannot wait. Like, this is my dream. I'd love to go. Yes. So I said yes again, not even really knowing I was agreeing to. I just said, sure, I'd love to do it. So I went, and long story short, at that retreat, they kind of, said, I think there were 10 of us or so there. So basically they dedicated like 10 or 15 of us to be Ford deputies. We all kind of have our friends of Ford deputies. We all kind of have our own distinction. Mine is EV. So anybody that, is looking for an EV, they can, reach out to me with questions, which, I kind of do anyway on Twitter and everywhere else. So I love to do it. I'm happy to do it. And then we have kind of like the Mustang people, the Ford Performance people. There's a few other people that are doing it with me. And so, yeah, it's going to be super fun. Hopefully we'll have some events coming up this year. And I'm excited to kind of, combine Friends of Ford with the Great Lakes Lightning Club and maybe some other, Lightning clubs, but as a Ford EV whole, not necessarily just as a Lightning Club too, because we have so many Mach-E drivers out there too. And I want to make sure that they're involved. So yeah, it was really cool to see that video come out. And I'm excited to build the Friends of Ford community.
It had a clip of you as a child, like all in your racing gear. And
oh, that's right. I added pictures to it. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah, I was trying to pull it up on my Instagram, but I can't. I've never logged in on my computer on Instagram before. Yeah, it's not letting me.
That's why I asked that, because I thought you had a racing background, and I really, I grew up. My dad still to this day has 32 Fords and 38 Chevy Coupes that are 1,000 horsepower. I mean, we grew up around that, and it was really hard. I think I've mentioned this before when the Lightning was announced. I was in the process of looking for a 2-door short bed, 4-wheel drive, 5-liter that I fully intend on whippling and big tires, wide tire, all that whole thing. I had it all planned. And then I went and drove a Lightning, and I was like, because I kind of got interested, but I was honestly pissed off when they told me they're going to make the Lightning electric, because I've got Lightning decor everywhere in my house. On the old school stuff. I mean, this is what I lived for back in the day, the Cobras and Lightnings. And I felt like they ruined it. And then I drove one, and I was like, holy crap, this is way faster in a crew cab 4-wheel drive than any of those earlier Lightnings were stock.
Yep. I think I had the same kind of reaction. It was hard to but I think if you're a true the lover, right? And I kind of have two separate designations. I think there's some people who they buy cars to track them. The way I grew up racing, that's not the way I grew up racing. I grew up racing in a race car. You bought a car, you had a trailer, you raced a race car on a track. I know some people think okay, well, I'm going to buy a car and then I'm going to track it. Totally cool. I don't have a problem with either one. That's just not kind of the way that I grew up racing. I grew up on a dirt track, it is a different sort of sense of what you race at the track is that's the only place you race it. So, but if you a real performance person, as a daily driver, it doesn't, you get to drive sort of like a race car almost every day, as an EV, but
yeah, you can get in a C8 and drive it like a C8 needs to be driven daily.
No, and you pull it out of your driveway, and my neighbors will be pissed every day. It's a different thing, so I just think from a everyday standpoint, yes. I'll be honest, I've watched Formula E, and I've tried to get into electric racing. I think there's some formats that work, like the rally cars. I think that's a really cool series that they have going, but I'm just not quite there with the fully electric racing yet. It's just, I miss the noise. I miss sort of, a lot of the just, I don't know, the atmosphere of it, but, I think we can do some really cool things. I'm not to say that electric doesn't have a place in racing, because I think it does. I just think there'll be certain applications where it works and certain applications where it doesn't, sort of like everyday life with EVs right now, right? Sure. There's certain applications that kind of work, and some that, gas is still maybe better.
I think it's bigger. Like you mentioned it there briefly, the noise. I think as humans, we're very visceral. We really want that whole experience. And for me, I got to be honest, the Friday nights when we just go cruising, then we had a couple of cruising nights here in our local town, and I don't love getting in my Lightning to go to a cruise night. I'd rather have a 67, Mustang with a supercharged, 351 Windsor in or something in it, because it's more fun. A couple of our Lightning group people have bought the new, it sounds dumb, but it's also cool, and I'm struggling with that, the new Charger that's got that speaker, and I'm like,
the guy turned it on next to us at the charger.
You get the noise when you want the noise, and then you don't. It crossed my mind.
I couldn't believe how loud it was. I could not. It rumbled. I thought there was a sports car next. I was like, what car was that? And I knew we were charging next to the charger, and I was like, there's no way it's that loud. It rumbled. It was pretty cool.
I want to like it. I'm struggling. I know that. What's the name of the speaker company that makes the one for the Lightning that goes in the back behind the wheels?
Borla. Is it Borla that does it, or who does?
Borla. And I'm like, I would catch so much hell. It's like putting a generator in the bed. People are going to give me so much hell for that. Anyway.
Oh,
guys,
man.
we went over 2.5 hours.
I think we should definitely think about mods though soon. I know it's not a full like episode, but I would love to talk about mods soon. I think that was really fun. So many little things that I've added onto my Lightning throughout the years, and I'm sure you guys are the same.
Chris, you've got lots of them too, between all the number of tonneau covers you've done.
He's got a disc jockey thing in the.
Yeah, I got my what the frunk special edition. What the frunk?
He beats us all. Us all.
That's a good transition. Maybe next week or week after we'll talk about trying to do some mods. I do have a couple of guys that I want to talk about bringing on. Zach from Tulsa, if he's listening, maybe we get you on, and then Robbie from out in Arizona, who's building some really cool stuff for some celebrities. He's got lots of EV swaps, so I'd like to get him on and talk EVs and
let's talk to Joe too and see if he's available soon. Yeah. And maybe we could even do that would be cool if we did a towing episode. And I mean, I know 5 would be a lot, but we could maybe 4 or 5 people. I mean, we could figure it out. A tow episode would be cool. Matt Lynn would be another great one. Matt Lynn would be a great one. Yeah.
So let's do a towing. Yeah, because that's definitely a challenge, and one of the biggest reasons why Ford's pivoting to EREV is the towing side. So I think that'd be good topics.
I love it.
All right, this has been
thanks, Ken. Appreciate the shout out.
Yeah. And everybody who commented, appreciate the feedback. Please keep those comments going. And if you want to contact us, how do we find everybody, Chris?
Well, you've got Jace is now the Friends of Ford Maven. So he's on Instagram and on Facebook, and he's in our Lightning group that we have, Lightning Owners group on Facebook. And then, of course, on X, what is your handle?
Threads. Threads now too. Threads I actually is my most followed platform. I gained 1,500 followers last week.
You gotta teach me about Threads, man. I get like zero engagement on it. I tried the EV Threads thing, and it's just one
of my tweets just got over 100,000 views on Threads. One of my threads, awesome. I should say.
Yeah, you gotta teach me how that Threads thing works, man.
I gotta work on it too.
I will. I'll teach you. It's just like Twitter. Just you'd add a hashtag to it.
And that's funny because you're up on all this stuff and you still call it Twitter.
It sounds ridiculous. I'm gonna exit.
I mean, I've noted this. I've been on Twitter for 15, 20 years now. So for me, it's hard. It's like the Indians, Twitter. They call themselves the Guardians now. I still slip up even today.
It's like a Dodge pickup. It'll be a Dodge. They can call it Ram whatever they want. It's a Dodge.
Exactly.
I mean, I'll call it X Twitter sometimes because it kind of works. It's X Twitter.
Are you on? You're on X. You're on X, and you're on Facebook, obviously.
I'm embarrassed to admit I am ridiculously on all of them because I was curious. So even TikTok, because I was like, when they were gonna ban TikTok, I'm like, you know what, man? If they're gonna ban this, this is the kind of spiteful contrarian I am. I'm like, if you're gonna ban something and tell me I had never.
You're the most petty person.
Yeah, that's.
You might beat Sergio. Top petty.
You're gonna tell me I can't as an American get on TikTok like there. So screw you. The only reason I got a TikTok is when they told me I couldn't, and then I just took a bunch of old content and literally threw it up there, and it's just I just have it out of spite now. I don't even I throw stuff on there for the heck of it.
I'm also on Blue Sky. If you're on Blue Sky yet,
I am on Blue Sky. I am on Twitter or X.
I think I have. I think I have an X account, but if you guys want to look me up,
you do. I've seen it.
I've tagged you.
Coffeeville, Kansas, at the Walmart.
Not very active.
Other than that, Facebook is it. That's all I'm on. Facebook. I know it's cool, and my kids think I'm Grandpa Ash, but
yeah, I mean, Facebook's the big one because I moderate the group, and it's like 27,000. There's a lot of people. Yeah. There's the Lightning Forum that they have that app that I'm on there. I'm not very active.
Yeah,
That's a good
I'm
one.
on that quite a bit, and that's more tech. There's a lot more tech going on there, and that's why I like it.
Oh, we didn't discuss my OTA I got today, by the way, which is pretty big one.
Shout out your OTA.
Yeah, I think it may be the same that everybody else got a little bit ago. The 2023's got a similar update. It was a gateway module update. It's the same number except for mine has 0.1 at the end. So I'm guessing it's the same update, but I think the new release notes have now started rolling out, and that's why the release notes don't quite match. So this one talks about preventing 12-volt battery drain, which I don't know if that's specific to OTAs or kind of in general, maybe both. But yeah, I think that was great to see. It was very surprising. I had not really seen that pop up yet, particularly those release notes. So it was really cool to see that. We'll have to see kind of how it goes.
Perfect too, Jace. I'm glad you brought that up because that's one of the things that I've put in feedback on, and I know a lot of guys have talked about. We want transparency in those notes. Tell us what you've done. That like they give us the battery percentage one in a front chimes update a couple years ago. Year and a half ago.
I've been have 2021 Mach-E. It was bad. It's gotten a lot better, but like it was. No doubt. I remember finding things like as we got an update, like, oh, this is new. Oh, this is and it was.
It should bullet point out what to find and what's different.
No doubt.
And I'm hoping this 12-volt.
And then read below. But the last one, read below for more detail and put all of it.
Yeah, I want the details, and I'm hoping. I just messaged Martin a week ago because I'm very sensitive to the 12-volt thing with as many problems as I've had.
No kidding.
And my app, I couldn't. My app wasn't connected to the truck, and then it said it had gone into some kind of saver mode.
Yeah,
and it
deep
had only
sleep.
been deep sleep, and I'm like, what the heck is it doing? And the last time it did that to me, the battery had gone wonky, and I had to disconnect.
So that happened just a week ago.
It just happened a week ago, and it freaked me out. And I messaged Martin. Martin sent me. It has not since because you and I don't know if it's coincidence or whatever, but Martin had me do this BMS reset that I need a video and make a video of that because it was pretty simple. And
it's easy.
I mean, you just flash the lights a few times and it resets the thing
5 times. And I was the brake pedal.
I actually don't recommend doing that when you're not replacing the battery. But if it's getting wonky and your battery's in good shape, that's the two things you have to know is that it's messing up and your battery's in good shape. You can kind of reset it to factory and it'll relearn that new battery. So it's something you can do. I do mine about twice a year.
Yeah, we bought a new 12-volt just to be safe. We have a spare because both of our trucks are on the same battery. God forbid one goes out. We're at 2.5 years now, so now I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm knock on wood that it doesn't, maybe this new update will help too, but we show, I think it's like 98% health on both those 12 volts. So they're still kicking right now.
Yep. And you get that stop safely now message when you're going on your way back from lunch to work, which I did. And then you freak out. You're thinking it's module. And most of the time it's 12 volt.
Yeah. That's very true.
So Chris,
that's
smart. I think you may have got it. Let's see if in the next month or so that it doesn't come back. But I bet, knock on wood, you're good after resetting it. So
yeah, I hope so. And Ken added a Bluetooth monitor for his 12 volt. I guess that just goes right on the battery itself on that. I think I've seen somebody make a video of this before.
You have to go downstream of that BMS deal, otherwise you're not quite. And I say that you can put it upstream and it won't factor in, but if it draws any voltage, it can actually make the Bluetooth the onboard with the factory one not draw right. That's why when they say even when you're charging them, you want to be on that bolt side, not on the actual post. So anyway,
lots of good stuff.
Well, good stuff tonight, guys. Yeah. Join us next week. We don't know yet.
Yeah, we don't know, but we'll have something fun. Maybe. I know we will. Maybe, but not maybe. But we'll have maybe a guest or two.
If you guys want to get these notifications on you that didn't see it pop up or whatever, go to the Turn Down for What live a YouTube channel, subscribe, like, and turn on notifications, and you'll get these pop up lives as soon as we go. So, all right, guys.
In the description, I put links to my YouTube channel, your YouTube channel, Martin.
You can find us.
So you can find us on our YouTube channels as well.
All right. I appreciate everybody. We will see you all next week.
Have a great night, guys.
Take care, guys.